Luo, a recognized guy from 7 Luo threateningly tells that he is the youngest son of 7-1 of the creator of the World Bank, and that the protagonist will be unfortunate if something happens to him. Guy hears this and starts to think that given his level of strength, he doesn't need such an enemy. But the guy remembers that now he has a different appearance, and no one will know his real identity. The young man pretends and says he's from Tuntian Temple. The heir had not heard of this sect, asking the protagonist where this sect was located. The young man says it's his legacy. The guy doesn't understand the difference, and threatening, saying better not to mess with him in the World Bank. The 2 great disciples of the Chenzong sect begin to accuse that the successor Luo is once again fooling the commoners. The protagonist thinks that the Chenzong sect also sent the strongest disciples here at this time. Luo accuses one of the disciples. Jikunmi starts accusing the major of lying. The young man starts to ask what kind of circus this kid is running if he is not the heir. The kid starts to say that he can't do anything to him anyway. Another student starts to explain that although the one is not the heir to the bank, he is the heir. Bailey Heihei and this situation is not worth it. Proto doesn't understand why the disciples of such a strong sect are trying to settle with a deceiver. The apprentice puts a hand on his shoulder, telling him to calm down, and that his father kicked him out of the clan for correction, not for him to cause trouble. Luo pulls back his arm and tells him to stay out of his way. The young man says that the second temple of Tuntian is questionable and he will check what kind of sect it is, and if the young man has lied to him, he will destroy him. The crowd outside Beimingyuan City. The older apprentice and Luo discuss whether or not the protagonist can make it into the city, as well as his origins. The elders and the heir discuss what they came to the city for. The kid says everyone here is here for the legacy of spiritual intelligence. The protagonist overhears this conversation and becomes interested in this legacy. The disciples of the sect notice that there are many strong people gathered here. The guy says all these people have come all this way because they're sure they'll win. A mysterious old man interrupts the conversations and explains that anyone over 18 years of age would leave immediately, and the rest of us who must pass through the gate would be allowed in. The protagonist notes that technically his body is less than 18 years old, but he's the white crow here. All participants begin to go through the gate. The hero picks up on the strictness of the rules in the beginning. Proto is enveloped by an energy that prevents him from going through the gate. An unknown force pushes the young man away. He asks why he was thrown back. The elder tells the guy to leave them because he's too weak. Also, one of the crowd says that this circle is testing your age level of cultivation as well as your spiritual level. The young man asks if the cultivation level depends on the spiritual level, and what about the physical level? The old man says rules are rules. The kid laughs at Proto and how he boasted about his cult and power. The protagonist stares furiously, calling that one an annoying rat. The old man and one of the others in line tell the guy to stop because he's too weak to go through the gate. This time, the guy goes through the gate calmly. The guy is wrapped in an energy that says he's made a breakthrough. Everyone in the crowd realizes that the young man just made an instant breakthrough and can't believe what they're seeing. A young man asks the old man if he can come in. The elder says that now the one can pass, thinking that this is only stage 1 and that it is too early to rejoice. The apprentice remarks that the boy is quite entertaining. The heir, in his turn, remarks that he is only a lower level and he will deal with him. The young man shows that he doesn't care about the boy's words. Luo notices that the guy doesn't care about his words and starts to snap at him. But the older man starts to stop him, saying not to get hot, because soon another test will begin. All conversations are interrupted by a pretty girl and a fat man, saying that they too want to take the test. The hero recognizes in these two his students with a subtle sigh. The heir starts looking at the beautiful girl, saying he wants to marry her. The old man tells them to hurry up, because the next test is starting, while the girl and the guy are discussing whether Chen Chen is here or not. Guy looks at his students and asks himself if they really came here to find him. The elder begins to explain. In order to pass the next test, you have to take the stairs behind him. The crowd starts climbing the stairs, saying 99 steps is too easy. Someone from the crowd, stepping on one ladder, falls down. Others going on it notice that the pressure is quite strong for the same step. Belle notes that the challenge is too boring, and even a child can handle it. The girl starts climbing the ladder very quickly. The other participants are very surprised at the girl's strength. The old man remarks that the girl is very skillful with cultivation, and that she will be the one to take the treasure. The fat man asks the old man if it's so hard to climb the ladder. The old man says, of course it's hard. The guy, as well as the girl, climbs the ladder in one go. The heir notices that Beiming Yuan has some interesting personalities at his disposal. One of the elders tells him to pass the test. The two older ones rushed forward, leaving the younger one behind. The boy, looking at the protagonist, asks the others if he can't climb. The guy stands still, watching other people discuss the difficulty of climbing the ladder. The old man points out that whoever does not overcome the 99 steps within 10 breaths will be destroyed. Climbing disciples look at others with disdain, saying it's sad to look at. The students notice that the guy is going to climb without an aura, but if he does, he'll turn into mincemeat from the pressure. The young man notes that this trial is boring and is not affected by the ladder seal. The other students mock him by telling him to fail or climb further rather than scratch his tongue. The guy agrees that the foreman and him climb the steps. The young man starts climbing the ladder in an instant. When the guy climbed, the others can't believe he did it so easily. The students can't understand what happened and how the guy ended up on top so quickly. The young man sighs and asks what the next challenge is. He is tired and wants to rest. The old man grudgingly says that the ordeal is over and those who climbed followed him. All students begin to follow the old man further. Puffy notices that the man seems familiar. Building on top of the mountain Baeminyuan outer courtyard. The elder tells everyone who came with him to enter. As the trial is over, the girl in turn snaps back, saying that she is only here to find one person and is not going to join if that person is not here. The elder starts yelling at the girl to come in or, God forbid, get lost if she's not going to join, also noting that if the girl came here to have fun, she should get lost. Belle notes that even if it is as the old man said, no one dares to reproach her if she wants to have fun. The elder is getting angry. The fat man tells the girl to chill out, because the boss, Jian Chen, doesn't like arrogant upstarts. The beauty notices that he's not here. Fatty notices that he's right there. The fat man looks at the young man, raising his finger up and winking. The young man thinks he's already figured him out. The girl looking at the guy thinks he's not her master and she has a bad feeling about it. The beauty, showing her strength, says that she is Bai Fenyu from Baidi City in Chanshan, and that is the end of the conflict. The girl says that the old man is right and let's go inside. The old man notes that he understands why this person behaves like this, because she is the heiress of a first-class sect. The elder says that the girl will go to the courtyard and the other 16 people will be divided into pairs and fight to form the top 10. Others ask the old man why he's so strict, since more than 100 disciples were recruited last year. The old man says that it was the order of Dean himself from Shifang Temple, and it's directly related to the legacy. The old man leaves telling everyone to find a date. The old man thinks that no one here can compare to the strongest of Qin Yun's list, and that everyone here is just children compared to them. Qin Yun's list. It is a list of the generation under 20 years old, in which there are only those who have reached the Dao stage. The guy grabs the first guy in the crowd and says, "Stop counting crows and let's go fight." An arena where battles are held to select the top 10. Some youngster challenges Jian Li to a duel. One of the people involved looks at it thinking it's all one show. The guy tells the protagonist to start a fight too, at which time Luo starts insulting the white-haired guy, and calls the other guy Juchi, and tells him to destroy him. The fat man looks at this saying that the kid is a terrible person, as Luo calls him a narrow-eyed fat man, and starts telling him that Juchi has an incredible potential and cultivation level to destroy the white-haired guy. The fat guy is looking at the guy laughing, thinking the boss is just going to smash his ego, while the opponent is yelling at him to pay attention to him. Puffy starts a fight with his opponent. Both begin to prepare for a confrontation. The protagonist also starts a fight with his opponent, preparing to strike. Jian Li begins his fight with his opponent, jumping first to strike. At this time, Qian Chen's opponent also launches an attack, first going behind his back, saying that it wasn't enough to defeat him. Li's opponent, shrouded in energy, says it's impossible. Fatty strikes his opponent hard, knocking him back several meters. The protagonist's opponent notices large streams of energy, and no sooner does he strike than the protagonist blows him away with a wave of his power. Both young men say they won. Luo and the two older students were speechless as they watched the fights. Then as they come to their senses, they start to wonder how strong these two are. The old man notices that this young man has defeated Juchi in a matter of seconds. The protagonist asks the old man if he can enter Baeminyuan. The old man grudgingly replies that according to the rules he can enter. The examiner tells the other Bayman students to escort the guests to the dormitory, the sex dormitory building. The pretty girl is offended that how could the teacher notice her, and not even say hello. The fat man in turn asks if the teacher will teach out here. The main character asks why the ponies came here if no one asked them to do so. The young man says that since his students are here, he will teach them here as well, asking them to leave his room. Some guy kicks the door open, tells everyone in the room to get out of there. The hero is hit by a rock charged with the power of the one who broke into his room. The young man calmly chisels away at the stone. A girl and a guy asks who dares to barge in on them. Some guy with a baton walks into the room saying that all the newcomers have to pay their living expenses, and he's come to personally collect the money. The fat man and the beauty look at him, thinking that the guy broke into the wrong place and he will have to pay the toll. The young man tells Li to ask the guy if he really wants to make him pay. A guy comes at the protagonist with a baton saying they've got the wrong guy. Young concentrates his strength for the punch. Guy gets knocked back by a jolt of energy. A kid lying on the ground asks the young man that how dare he attack him. The protagonist stands up and asks the burglar who he thinks he is. The guy thinks how dare he think he's some big shot with a lot of money. The young man snaps and says he doesn't care who they are, and if they don't pay him by the end of the day, they will be kicked out of the sect. The young man tells his companion to take care of the misunderstanding. The guy, apologizing, says it's an order from the boss. Fatty takes a swing at Kid on the ground. Kid lands a high kick. This guy starts spitting blood when he notices that his cultivation has been destroyed. Fatty asks if the boss will fight. The young man says that canceling cultivation is enough. The protagonist puts his hand on Lo's shoulder and tells him to visit the neighboring rooms that way. The fat man, returning from the next room, brought the door with him, showing it. The girl says that while the guys were fooling around, it was time to go back to the courtyard. The young man sees the girl off and tells her not to come back until she finds a sponsor. Belle says with a disgruntled look that she understands. The heir starts nagging the two guys to calm down since they are all new. He also begins to explain that they will not be punished for oppressing the old students, but the elders may come, and then they will be in trouble. The young man, snapping at him, tells him to watch himself and not others, not thinking that if he is the heir, others will run after him and wipe his ass. The other students start discussing the young guy in white, who was Bai Yi's subordinate who was beaten up. The heir starts to leave, saying he'll deal with them later, but next time. The fat man asks the boss if he should deal with this guy in white. He answers that he doesn't need to because he is still weak compared to him. He will solve everything himself. The protagonist asks if the guy came to avenge him. The guy replies that if the guy zeroes out his cultivation, he'll let him go alive. The young man snaps back, saying the same thing as the guy, and to get the guy to stop, bullshit or fight. The disciple, enraged, begins to attack. Protagonist dodges a punch. The young man dodges all of the student's punches without letting him hurt himself. Guy starts a counterattack by dodging another punch from his opponent. The student has time to react and throws a punch. The protagonist gets nailed to the ground by the opponent's machinery. The young man wonders if it's a spell. The guy remembers that there are different cultivation methods, and the title of warlock is very difficult to obtain, noting that not only is the opponent's cultivation stronger than that of a normal person, but he is also a warlock. The enemy begins to mock the young man for not being as nimble now. The young man begins to gather energy. Proto breaks the student's spell, saying that everything is useless. The apprentice is surprised and can't believe his spell was dispelled so easily. The young man begins his attack, enveloping his opponent with his techniques, saying that his pathetic tricks won't work on him. The student, trying to dodge, asks what the guy is going to do. The guy replying that for going to deprive him of his cultivation, he would do the same to him by striking him. An old man appears and saves the apprentice by telling them to stop fighting, because he is already lost. The young man asks the old man that if he were in his place, his cultivation had already been destroyed, and the old man was unlikely to intervene. Elder thinks that how can he compare himself to his grandson? And it's a shame there are a lot of people here. If it wasn't for that, he would teach him a lesson. The old man turns around, saying that this buffoonery is over. His grandson starts tauntingly asking what the young man still wants to hit him. The other students begin to discuss how strong the main character is, and that the old man cares too much about his grandson. The young man begins to harp on how everyone thinks this is fair. The fat man begins to say that this student is under the patronage of Master Lu. The protagonist begins to notice that not only the elder has authority in the sect. On the academy grounds, some talk began about a gathering of all the students. The protagonist is cultivating at this time. The guy, sighing, asks what the urgent meeting at the academy is about. The fat guy starts telling me that every 3 years there is a tournament at the academy. He also notes that the top 3 will be able to enter the Siphon Temple. The young man rises, saying it's not a bad idea to go see the outside courtyard of the academy. One of the students asks why Elder Luo isn't there. Another explains to him that he has some problems with his nephew. The elder explains that the academy has selected the top 10 students to participate in the tournament. The students start discussing that freshmen are unlikely to make the list. The old man starts telling us the names of those participating in the tournament. Students, hearing a freshman's name, start asking why he was allowed into the tournament. The old man explains that if Toto is not satisfied, he can challenge him to a duel and the winner will take his place. Luo arrives with Chen Xiaoju, his cousin, saying that if anyone is unhappy with his candidacy, then let them fight him. The arrogant guy looks at the young man and asks him what is wrong with him and replies that he is too naive. The young man notices an unusual energy from the boy's cousin. Someone in the crowd has volunteered to be the kid's opponent. Guy beats his opponent with one punch, asking others that if they want to fight, let them come over. The elder notices that some ordinary disciple has decided to fight an outstanding disciple like Luo. The old man begins to list the other participants. Announcing the last participant, the old man surprisingly says that the last one will be Jian Chen. The young man thinks he doesn't want to reveal his true identity. The other students disagree with the elder's decision. The mysterious man says something. This the old man hears and immediately yells at the students, saying that this place belongs to him and it is not up for discussion. The other disciples begin to object, not understanding why the elder decided this. The main character starts yelling that he won't participate. The other students can't understand why he refused to participate, because it is a very honorable place. The old man tells him not to dabble, because participation in this tournament will do him a lot of good, because if he achieves good results, he will be rewarded. The young man wonders if he should take part because he can win, but he doesn't want his enemies to know he's here. The old man says that he has no right to refuse because his name was called by the head elder, and if he doesn't participate, he will be expelled from the Bei Minyuan sect. The boy thinks if he opposes the elder, all his work will be for nothing. The young man agrees to participate, thinking that playing some games is not such a big deal, to then enter Sifan. The teacher leaves, saying they will meet in 3 days, thinking the guy is rude. The protagonist puts his hand on the fat man's shoulder, telling him that he'll teach him a couple new moves to keep up the level of his other opponents. The young man says that the outcome of the tournament will depend on the guy. The fat man doesn't understand and asks if it will really depend on him. The guy, angry, hits the guy over the head, saying that from him, because he's not allowed to reveal his identity. A girl comes up and says that, in order not to reveal his identity, just don't use the techniques by which he will be revealed. She also starts bragging that she has gained the support of Elder Bilou from the courtyard. The guy tells her not to get cocky and introduce herself as a master. She replies that she knows that master is comparable, that, and progenitor and all that. 3 days later, the tournament arena. The old man leads the disciples, saying that Manhwa is the strongest unit out of the 4 existing ones, so let the others not be surprised if they win this tournament. The heir begins to boast that the old man is wrong because he is participating this year. The teacher, in turn, points out the level of cultivation of the opponents and notes that they are much stronger and more capable. After these words, the boy calms down and says nothing in response. The protagonist remembers that there is a level limit, and that stronger participants can take. The other teachers approach the old man with a sneer. These teachers begin to greet the old man and say that he hasn't changed a bit and his students are still just as weak. The students start shouting angrily about how they'll easily beat them. The old man starts scolding the students for their intemperance. The other teacher starts telling them to calm down because they are still young and energetic, and invites them to pass on. 2 students begin to argue over who will win the tournament. The elder, standing in the middle of the arena, explains that only the strongest students will participate in this tournament. He also hopes that everyone performs well at the tournament, and that they don't aim to kill anyone. Another elder starts handing out plaques, while the first one tells that now all participants will receive a plaque on which will be written their turn and the name of the opponent. All students received their plaques. The protagonist looks at the plaque and says he's lucky. Because he's caught weak opponents, Fatty asks if that's a bad thing. The guy explains that this is very good because he can pretend to lose and then win. The fat guy is looking at his spreadsheet while he listens to the guy's explanation. He says he can't do that because he's up against some tough opponents. The young man says that the fat man can win, but he would like to think of another way without using techniques. But he thinks that even if he trains heavenly and earthly body techniques for only a couple of days, he has a chance of winning. Guy goes into the arena saying he's going to give it his all and win. The 2 students arrive at the arena and prepare for battle. The referee announces that the match has begun. The opponent shouts that he will start first and starts using his technique. The technique was so strong that the guy fell to his knee. The protagonist notices that this guy is suppressing the fat man's powers. The young man notices that the opponent is able to suppress the power of others, but not completely. The fat man is just afraid of losing. Guy losing to his opponent, enveloped by his suppressive energy coming out of the arena. The referee declares the youngster defeated because he has stepped outside the arena. The boy starts to ask his teacher how his opponent could have so much power. The young man replies that the opponent's cultivation was much higher than his. The fat man, who finds out the truth, can't believe it and starts wailing. Some student thinks he's the only one who's gonna win first place. The guy is frustrated that he can't win the tournament. At this point, Proto, thinking that cultivators of this stage can safely enter Siphon, so why would they participate in the tournament? The protagonist says they will win this tournament, but Lo remembers that he didn't want to participate. The guy explains that since he lost, he's the only one who has a hope. The protagonist enters the arena to battle the enemy. The other disciples begin to mock the guy's cultivation level. The opponent starts saying that if he gets on his knees and admits defeat, then he won't kill him. The guy replies that he's annoying and launches an attack. The opponent manages to bounce off the guy's attack and starts a counterattack. The young man begins to use a defensive technique. The defense technique calmly repelled the enemy's attack. The guy doesn't seem to mind his technique being repulsed. The protagonist begins to use enchantments. Others watching are amazed that a guy who knows how to put up barriers can use charms. The opponent, gathering energy, starts fending off the guy's attacks, saying that with his strength, he's no match for him. The man begins to reproach the protagonist for his weakness, and points out that his barriers will be able to do nothing to him. The guy says to make his opponent better at running away instead of scratching his tongue. The opponent noticed that this thunderstorm technique was very strong. Rolls of thunder and lightning begin to pierce the man's body, causing severe damage. The opponent falls to his knees, exhausted by the previous blow. Young begins taunting his opponent, asking him why he is kneeling. The kid asks him if the man wants to continue the fight. The man gives up in fear. Other students take their ally on their shoulders and carry him out of the arena. One old man begins to understand why the elder has a liking for the young man. The disciple elders noticed that this guy was very strong, and the fatty was also strong, only the cultivation level was lame. The boy overheard their students' conversation. The young man starts calling names and belittling the student who has become very arrogant. The elder calms his apprentice, telling him to ignore such upstarts. The guy calms down and says he will definitely whitewash in the tournament. The old man recognizes the white-haired guy as Qian Chen. Lo remarks that he noticed two people looking at the guy. He, in turn, says that he knows about it and says that he has found out something. The young man says that he felt a lust for killing in the arena, also saying that only shameless dogs are in Nanhuanyuan. The fat guy asks the guy if his identity has been revealed. He tells him that the assassins have filled the entire continent, so if they notice suspicious activity, they'll leave. The young men's conversation is interrupted by two students. Two guys start asking the white-haired guy about who he is, since he's the only one who won out of the rookies. The young man replies that he is from Tuntian Temple, at which point the heir starts shouting, saying that he has made inquiries and found out that such a place does not exist at all. The guy begins to explain to the young man that not all information is under his control, because his temple is much more powerful than he thinks. The protagonist begins to leave with his friend, the boy looking at their backs thinking that maybe this guy came from some hidden world. The fat man asks what kind of temple the young man has named, since he has not heard of such a temple. The white-haired guy starts angrily punching his friend, saying that he's an idiot, explaining that he lied. But Lo notices that the old man who revealed the protagonist's identity can do something about it. The young man agrees that the old man has discovered his identity, and tonight will be the perfect chance to strike, so they return to recover and prepare. Evening, the main character's dorm room. The guy notices someone and says, "Let him go," enters, at which point the foreman flies into the room. The old man begins to say that the hovel in which the boy settled is not so bad, noting that the young man did not stay in his sect, but changed his appearance and came to the tournament. The elder says he wouldn't recognize the guy if it weren't for the ego's lightning attack. The young man snaps back, saying that even if he did reveal the ego's identity, he can't defeat him. The master says that even now he wants to play with the youngster, noting that the chubby kid isn't here. The kid snaps back, saying that the old man is too weak to do anything to him anyway. The old master launches an attack, shouting that he will finish off the youngster. The guy starts using the technique, saying that everyone who tried to kill him is already dead. The old man marvels that the guy can create seals while he's enveloped by flames. The young man says that he has prepared for the elder's arrival and wants him to enjoy his gift. The old man, afraid of death, tries to say that he knows valuable information about Ange. The guy, walking away, says the old man was too late and finishes his attack, which kills the old man without leaving a speck of dust behind. After the fight, a puffball runs into the room asking the guy what happened here. The guy says he's dealt with the enemy, and points out that if it wasn't for the guy and the girl, his identity wouldn't have been revealed. The young man, leaving, tells the boy that since he realized his mistake, he will learn heavenly and earthly techniques as punishment. The fat man asks the teacher if this is a punishment. The kid, catching up with the teacher, asks what he's going to do about tomorrow's bouts. The young man realizes that the trio will do business with him, and if he fights them all, he will use up all his energy. The protagonist starts using some technique, saying he'll worry about it tomorrow. The next day of competition is the tournament territory. The protagonist enters the arena for duels, while the other student's ego is being judged by the rest of the students. The students start threatening and belittling the guy, telling him to give up or die, because he shouldn't have crossed Nanhuanyuan. The young man glares menacingly at his opponents, saying that trash like them can't do anything but idle chatter. The instigator, who was the most arrogant of all, says that if the guy doesn't want to do it the hard way, he'll do it the hard way, and before he can finish, he's surprised to see his opponent. At this time, the young man uses his technique and floats in the air, asking his opponents if they are scared. The disciple, surprised at what he saw, says that people at the lowest level cannot soar, asking if these are celestial arts. The guy encourages all the students together to teach the protagonist a lesson because he is not so simple. All the students start attacking the young man. The guy in turn calmly begins to use his technique. The protagonist's past opponent is trying to warn the others to be careful, because the guy is going to make a reception with lightning, which he lost. The student's mentor notices that the young man's attacks are getting stronger each time. Proto puts his hands together, starting to create a technique. The energy around you begins to intensify and connect. Guy finishes his technique while the others watch the fight. Teacher notices that this is the Sky Vault of Justice technique. A mentor warns his students to leave. The guy, smirking, says it's too late. The young man completes the technique. Rolls of thunder begin to hit the opponents. The students begin to fall to their knees from the guy's strong attack and beg for mercy. Teachers start yelling for him to stop. The young man says he will stop if the teachers answer his question. Teachers can't wait and ask what the question is. Guy asks who the winner of this fight is. All but one teacher says that of course he won. The remaining teacher thinks that if they recognize him as the winner, they will give him the first place in the tournament. The guy interrogates the teacher's decisions, while the other teachers begin to hurry the ladder with the answer as they are worried about their students. The last one is clearly unhappy that the guy won. The young man, snapping back, says he could have been quicker to admit it. Guy cancels his technique. The students who got caught in it sigh with relief because they thought they were going to die. The mentor, who didn't want to recognize the boy's victory, says that tomorrow is the last fight. The boy thinks that Nan Huangyuan is shameless. The protagonist, grinning, agrees with his mentor and says that since he won today, he will give the others one night to heal their wounds, because tomorrow they will fight anyway. Other mentors examining their students think that how terrible this guy is, since he can so easily maim other people. The mentors, looking at the guy, say that their disciples from Sixue Yuan and Dongli Yuan will not participate in tomorrow's fight. Two disciples from Nanhuan Yuan tell the mentor that they want to participate in the duel. The teacher, getting angry, says that two of the students' egos will be involved. The guy, laughing, walks away and says he hopes the students have time to recover before the fight tomorrow. The teacher can't stand Jian Chen's words and threatens to take revenge. Academy dormitory. Fatty marvels at the protagonist's strength and says he's beginning to admire him even more. The guy's conversation is interrupted by an old man telling the guy to take the old man's advice. The old man advises the young man to lose the fight tomorrow. Proto replies that he doesn't intend to lose. The elder, leaving, says the guy will regret his decision. Luo asks the guy what the old man meant. The young man replies that the old man is afraid of Nanhuan Yuan. The guy also notices that they're not going to give up, and neither is he. The young man begins to feel spiritual pressure. The elders came to the young man saying that Elder Shu didn't return yesterday. One of the elders says the protagonist won't leave until they figure out what happened. The guy leaves the room asking how he is connected, and the disappearance of the elder. Mentor says he's the most suspicious of them all. The young man asks if he can participate in tomorrow's fight. The teacher replies that he is suspected of killing the elder, and he dares to ask about it. The old man walks away telling the guy not to lie to them, and about going to the finals tomorrow he can score. The fat man asks what the young man thinks about it. He tells him that the old man was probably killed on purpose, and that the elder wants to take advantage of the situation and prevent him from participating in the finals. Lo asks the guy if he's really going to participate after what happened. He tells him that they should rest. The day of the tournament finals, the tournament arena, the disciples can't figure out where Jian Chen is, because the duel is about to start, and if he doesn't come, they won't be able to participate. The elder is content to think the guy got a good scare and got spooked. The teacher who recently accused him of killing the elder starts to say, since the guy didn't show up for the duel, we can call it a day. The young man interrupts the old man, saying that he had urgent matters to deal with. The two elders are surprised that the boy came after all. Some student starts asking the young man how he got out of the barrier. The guy, remembering how he destroyed the barrier, says he guessed who put it up. The mentor starts yelling at the young man, saying that how dare he show up if he is suspected of killing the elder. The guy entering the arena says that the elder is so vehemently accusing him of murder without proof, and since that's the case, he can also say that Nanhuan Yuan is sabotaging his participation in the finals. The teacher, angry, starts attacking the guy, saying his words are baseless nonsense. The protagonist replies to the elder that since he says so, what will the people of Siphon Temple say to this? Mentor begins to realize that if people from the Siphon sect find out about it, he will not be happy. Perhaps he will die. Realizing the situation, the elder calls off his attack. The teacher asks the guy does he really think the elders won't be able to suspend him. He also says that he will look into the disappearance of one of the elders. The protagonist remarks that he doesn't care, because he admits that if he doesn't remove the two guys who accompany him, he won't be able to defeat him. The elder is hurt by the guy's words and, angry, says that the finals don't start with the ego fight and that he was waiting for his turn. The young man swipes a glance at the insolent men, thinking that he will see how shameless Nanhua Yuan can be. The fat man runs over to the students and they start asking where Jian Chen is. Puffy tells that they were locked in the barrier because an elder accused him of missing another elder. One apprentice asks why the mentor is silent. The old man coldly replies to the disciple that the finals are about to begin, and if he is not satisfied with anything, he should contact Beiming Yuan. The boy replies that he despises an elder who can't protect his own students. The teacher announces the start of the finals and says that the participants can choose their own opponent. The young man immediately realizes that this Nanhua Yuan are scum, since they are exposing two people with average cultivation levels. He challenged two people to a duel at once. The enemy begins to boast of his strength. The second students begin their attack. The guy starts using his technique, saying that even he doesn't know his full capabilities. The arena begins to fill with the dense aura of the protagonist. Someone in the crowd remarks that it is heavenly level or even higher. Within this force, an incomprehensible silhouette begins to loom. The protagonist saying that his opponents are in a hurry to die. The ability took the form of a demon. The guy's opponents start yelling that he didn't come near them. Guy defeats his opponent with one punch, heading towards the next. The next opponent begs for mercy and asks not to be touched. The young man doesn't listen to his opponent and defeats him just as easily. Other students see how the guy, easily divided with opponents, begin to fearfully call him a demon. The protagonist approaches the elder and says that no one will stop him from taking first place in the tournament. The teacher yells at the young man, saying he won't get first place. A man starts accusing the protagonist of being a spy for a demonic sect, and someone like him can't take first place. The disciples of this elder begin to agree and condemn the guy. The other guys start defending the guy, saying it's Nanhua Yuan not wanting to give the first place to someone else. The fat guy runs up to the young man and tells him to leave, but the guy tells him to calm down and watch the show begin. Elder Nanhua Yuan and his disciples start attacking the guy. Some voice begins to say, "Show me who dares to say such a thing." The teacher can't understand who said this, and asks what right he has to interfere in Nanhua Yuan's affairs. The old man descends with great energy. The elder introduces himself as Zhu Jian from the city of Baidi. The man is puzzled and can't understand why the guy is being defended by such an authoritative master. The old man hands the pill to the boy, saying that he came to pass the payment for his friend, and hopes that the boy will give him some good advice. The young man says that he is ready to train the old man. The main thing is that he does not slack off and works hard. The elder understands what the guy is getting at and asks if he can get a discount, thinking that a young man can be so greedy for money. The protagonist, pointing his finger at the instigators of the conflict, says he will give a 20% discount. The old man agrees. The main instigator says it's all a joke, but sees that the old man has no intention of stopping. The elder attacks the man, killing him with a powerful blow. Students watching this painting wonder how a master could be so cruel. At this time, some master appears in the air and asks the elder if this is too much. This master turned out to be Muzhongbei from Nanhua Yuan. The other disciples begin to rejoice that he has come to save them. The old man asks why they're picking on everyone else if it's too much. He replies that they are in their territory of the Siphon Temple. The master also points out that a messenger from the temple will soon arrive, but the messenger will still say that the boy must die. While the conversations are going on, a carriage with a messenger arrives. The carriage lowers to the ground, stopping not far from the arena. The messenger begins to get out of the carriage. Master Nanhua Yuan gets on his knee and greets the messenger. The young man walks past the master, ignoring him. The man doesn't understand why the messenger ignored him. A young man walks up to the old man and bows his head in greeting, calling himself Bai Xiaolin. The young man asks the old man, addressing him as an uncle, what he is doing here. The old man replies that he has business here, pointing at the protagonist. The boy asks his uncle to tell him what is going on in detail so that he can understand in detail what is going on here. The master does not understand what is going on and wonders if the old man knows the messenger. The young messenger asks the man who the winner of the tournament is. The master starts to lie and says that all the winners are disciples of Nanhua Yuan. Luo starts yelling that he is lying, and the winner is Jia Chen from Beiming Yuan. The messenger asks the man what the problem is. The master begins to tell him that Jian Chen is the winner, but he is a spy of a demonic sect. The man pointing his finger at the guy goes on to say that if he hadn't come, the protagonist killed their headman. The guy looking at the liar teasingly asks if he's really from a demonic sect. The old man tells the messenger not to listen to this liar, and the man from the demonic sect is behind his back. The guy remembers that the protagonist is his cousin's teacher, and she is the first to know about it. The messenger turns to the man, saying that he is a liar since this guy is his cousin's master. And how could he join a demonic sect? The boy points to the old man, asking the master if he knows who the old man is. He replies that he doesn't know ego. The young man explains that this man is Jiang Ye, Lord of Chan City Shanda Hai Baidi. The man backs away, unable to believe the ambassador's words. The youngster says that the old man is superior to their elder. And can't they recognize a renegade in their sect themselves? The master realizes he's finished. The guy asks the protagonist who the other finalists are. Proto says those two, pointing to the two students lying down. Guy notices that the disciple's energy is somehow fluctuating and concludes that it's a Taoist cultivation. The master realizes that things are not working out in his favor and feeds to leave. The messenger notices this and stops the liar with his attack. The kid asks since when the Sifan rules don't have a ban on Taoist cultivation, calling Murong Bey a bastard. Muran tries to justify that it was not his order and that he will change everything. The messenger replies that the Sifan sect will definitely pay for using the technique. Bai approaches the protagonist saying hello to him. The young man says that since he is the winner of the tournament, he can enter the temple and start training, and also presents a present. This present was the legacy of the god Nian Sheng. The messenger began to tell how he had received this inheritance, and said that the god himself had descended in one of the 4 directions to leave his inheritance. The protagonist, listening to the young man, thought that it was the end of this god's life that he had come down to leave his inheritance. Then a star fell in the middle of the sky, for a star fell. The boy began to think that if a star had fallen, then a god had fallen. He asked himself if it was really Nian Sheng he was thinking of. After that, the messenger says goodbye to the old man, and the protagonist saying that he still has some business to do, and he has to go. The liar lying down pushes himself to justify himself even more, to which the protagonist replies that he does not need to take more sins on his soul. The guy just walks by the teacher, who disliked him saying he didn't do it for him, and to report everything to Bei Minyu and himself. The teacher realizes that the young man didn't blame the old man, so he wouldn't be punished. The old man starts to say that he originally came here to see his granddaughter. The guy, teasingly, agrees with him, leaving for his room. Heavy rain on the dormitory grounds. The protagonist fills the scroll with energy, trying to read it. Bright streams of light begin to shine from the dormitory building, at which time the man on the street noticed that he had somehow gotten worse. The protagonist sees Nian Sheng's soul emerge from the scroll and laugh. The soul begins to say that it believes if it waits for the ego, it can die in peace. The protagonist begins to ask how he died. The spirit begins to tell that the 36 gods who turned against the hero after his departure declared a war of the heavens, and because of which most of his people died or fled. Some began to hide. The guy asks what about Nian Sheng, why he didn't hide or run away. The spirit explains that his 9 heavens and god seat needed protection. The ghost continued to speak and regretted that he couldn't stand. The protagonist screams that he wants to protect his old friend. The young man keeps saying he'll come back and protect everyone. The soul of an old friend holding the young man's hand begins to disappear and tells him to let his heirs accompany him in the battle for the freedom of the world. The protagonist yells at his friend and starts dropping tears. One tear lands on the scroll, which begins to emit a glow. The characters in it begin to get into the young man's head. A young man cultivates for 10 days, attaining supreme mind control. After that, the guy receives a message that his subordinate has found the main hall of the Dark Pavilion. The young man opens his eyes, thinking they have finally found their enemies. A subordinate tells us that the Dark Cloud Inn is the enemy's base, wondering if they were right under their noses, but they didn't notice them. The guy remembers passing by this hotel a couple times. The protagonist asks the old man what the strongest fighter the pavilion has. The old man starts to ask, that is he really going to destroy the enemy's main headquarters and make so many enemies? The guy says not to worry about it and notes that the old man needs to go back to his sect since he hasn't been there for a long time. Coming out of his room, the guy meets 2 students who block his path. The boy immediately began to ask why he went into seclusion immediately after the competition, whether he was afraid of him. Jianshen walks past without paying attention to the kid. The kid starts stopping the young man, saying he embarrassed him every time he could. Luo starts to say that the boy was just scared after meeting his cousin. The cousin starts looking at the young man, saying that he is unimpressive. The protagonist asks the brash young man who he is, noting that he is quite young for the realm of the Tao. The young man introduces himself as the heir to the Man Chen World Bank, also pointing out that he has a legacy, and if he gives it up and apologizes to his cousin, he will consider not hurting the guy. The protagonist says he won't give up the legacy and thinks people like him aren't worthy of his brother's legacy. The guy with the fan starts attacking the young man, saying that defeating a few cultivators with a small level of Tao doesn't make the ego invincible. The guy replies that if he wants to fight, he'll do it. The young man begins to use a forbidden technique. The guy dodges the techniques, saying he's surprised at how much his opponent has risen to the realm of Tao using only forbidden techniques. Jumping back, he starts attacking back, saying he can't be defeated like that. None of the enemy's attacks reach the target. The protagonist begins to counterattack, but the opponent dodges the blows. The heir begins to use his strongest technique. The guy asks when the young man uses his trump card, Proto noting that the guy has an avatar. The young man begins to contemplate the fact that Tao cultivators with an avatar will be stronger than a normal one without an avatar. The heir starts using his technique, saying that if it wasn't for the protagonist's forbidden techniques, he wouldn't have had to use his trump card. The guy's punches are starting to counter the protagonist's defensive technique. The protagonist says he has more forbidden techniques, starting to set her up. The guy's opponent is surprised at the amount of stuff the guy has because every sect has its own rules and techniques. The heir makes his strongest attack yet. The protagonist begins to use another technique. As a result of the clash, the protagonist wins the battle with his strength. The cheeky boy is surprised that his cousin lost and goes over to see how he is doing. The young man falls to his knee exhausted, thinking that if he was stronger, he would have no problem using this technique. The protagonist tells the loser that since he lost, he is not worthy of the legacy, thinking that the battle was hard because the cultivator with the avatar is different from the others. The loser opens his eyes trying to say something. The protagonist's opponent sees someone approaching him and shouts for him to dodge. At that moment, an assassin appears behind the young man and pierces him with a dagger. The protagonist grabs the assassin's arm. At this time, Jen Chen's disciples came running over and saw that he was being attacked. The girl starts attacking the killers. The assassin recognizes the girl and fails to dodge the blow, but is saved by a protective formation. The killer screams that the guy is finished and runs away, while the fat man apologizes because if he was here in time, it didn't happen. The young man takes out a dagger and says that the Dark Heaven Pavilion has long wanted to take Ego's life. The girl starts to ask what condition the guy is in. He replies that he urgently needs to return to the sect because the killer's dagger was poisoned. The disciples, through tears, say they will take the master to the sect right away. The apprentice carrying her master tells the two young men that this happened because of them, and if something happens to the boy, the city of white rulers will declare war on the World Bank. The heir is surprised by the girl's words, realizing that she is the same Bai Fengyu. Also, he can't understand who this guy is since he is her master. The disciples are trying to get their master into the cult faster. An old man and his students are standing near the exit, shouting that Ming Academy is not a place you can leave and enter whenever you want. The old man thinks that this is the best time to get rid of him, because no one will care about what happened here. And if someone comes, they can blame it on the tournament. The girl starts yelling for the old man to get out of her way. The old man replies that she is his student and she can't leave without his permission. Belle hands over the poisoned protagonist, a puffball, telling him to keep an eye on him. The girl says she'll clear a path for them. Feng Yu starts attacking the crowd, saying that they'll just die if they don't pass. The girl's attack begins to reach the crowd, but the old man asks if she thinks they are afraid of her. A security seal appears in front of the teacher. This seal neutralizes the girl's attack by feeding off the crowd's powers. Belle, angry, remarks that the old man is prepared, and yet if they don't let them through, she will wipe out the academy. The old man replies that everyone from her town is so cocky. The girl continues to attack the old man. The old man shouting that the academy, so still under his rule, is not so easy to destroy, attacking the girl back. Beauty, trying to defend herself to think she's done everything she can, but the girl is protected by an unknown man. Then the silhouette of an old man appears and says he's stopping this buffoonery and sends Elder Lu to the Hall of Punishment. Lu realizes that this is a great elder. The old man, realizing that no one had come out of the Academy Punishment Hall alive, the elder falls down before the Great One and asks for insight, saying he realized his mistake. The girl takes the master away from the guy, telling the old man that if their master dies, he too will go to the other world. The elder feeds to persuade the girl to dissuade the great elder from the sentence because such an old man, as he gets there, he will not be able to see the sunlight anymore. A girl and a guy walk out of the academy. Belle notices that the teacher is getting worse. She starts begging Jean Chen to hold on and not die. The main building of the Kwangzun clan. The guy assumes his true form, telling the girl to take him to the throne of the sect head. Belle gently places the protagonist on the throne, asking if everything is okay. The young man sighs with relief as he sits down on the throne. The girl starts running for the antidote, telling the guy to stay to protect the master. The protagonist begins to cultivate, realizing that the poison the ego has been poisoned with can dissolve flesh and energy. However, with the throne he created before ascension will be able to neutralize the poison. The protagonist begins to cultivate with the throne, knowing that it contains the powers of eternal ice and the blood of the scarlet bird that create a semblance of yin and yang. The girl comes running in with the healer yelling for them to hurry. During this time, the young man cures himself of the poison. Belle, realizing that the guy is fine, starts crying and says she's happy to see him fine. The guy says that this poison isn't strong enough to take Ego's life, pointing out that the girl did her best today too, and she deserves a rest. Belle, leaving, says she was very worried about the protagonist and will now go to rest. The young man beckons the two men over to him, asking one of them if he has enough medicine. The latter replies that it is enough, because they grow herbs every day and prepare pills according to the master's recipe. The young man tells the alchemist to take the medicine and go hire a few mercenaries of Dao stage, no less. The alchemist asks him why he wants to do that. The guy responds by simply doing it by putting his hand on the man's shoulder, changing the man's appearance. Turning to the other, Proto asks him to take the men and surround the Dark Cloud Inn. The man asks why the guy would want to do that. The guy replies that they tried to kill the egos, and he wants revenge, hustling Luo Shan to make things quick and clean. The old man replies that he will avenge the guy, thinking that the death of the master will also be death for the sacred one. The young man gives the man the scroll, telling them to surround the inn according to the plan on the blueprint. The guy, staying alone, says he'll be sure to deal with the pavilion. An old man comes to the foreman and asks if he wants to get rid of the pavilion. The guy replies that the old man is basically right, but he doesn't want to just get rid of them. He wants payback. He starts telling the old man that some of the 3 clans want him dead, and if the pavilion isn't among them, he's not going to let it go. The demonic cultivator replies to the guy that he should only pay his attention to the Star Sword clan. The guy realizes this himself, asking for the old man's help to take people from the demon clan. The elder begins to have doubts about this proposal. The protagonist shows the old man the sunset legacy of the demon god, asking if it's enough for him to help. The old man, saying that he was a great elder of the demon clan and would organize everything as quickly as possible.
The protagonist sends the old man to hurry up and take the men, saying that if they are strong, it will be good, while thinking at the same time that he needs to get his power back and strengthen it.
3 days later, the guy hears that the Star Sword sect has attacked a student of the Ego clan. The protagonist, leaving his hall, says that if the enemies are looking for their death, he will help them. The girl and the fat man notice that their master has gone somewhere, considering he is still being hunted by the Dark Pavilion. One of the old men said he saw the young man leaving towards the Star Sword sect. He also notes that given the master's hatred of them, it all comes down to the fact that he went to deal with them. The girl starts to leave, telling the others that she will go ahead and the others will gather enough strength to go as well. Sword sect buildings, the outer courtyard of the Star Sword sect. A young man flies to the cult to deal with his enemies and save his follower. The Sword sect's men begin preparations to attack. One of the enemies strikes. The protagonist, dodging the enemy's techniques, says that such blows have no effect on him. The guy attacks his attacker with fatal blows. One of the crowd starts wailing, saying how dare he break into their territory and maim their elder. The young man descends on his enemies, saying, "Isn't this why they grabbed the ego of a subordinate?" One of the disciples starts saying, since the guy admits that the demonic sect elder is his subordinate, he's a demon. The protagonist begins to attract the apprentice with his power. Pulling the one by force, he grabbed him by the throat, saying he spared the guy too often. An old man in the crowd shouts for the young man to let his apprentice go. The kid, thinking that the protagonist can't kill the ego, starts saying that he's going the dark way, the way of the demon. The protagonist replies to the guy that even an animal knows what mercy is. A young man, smiling achidically, offers to play a game. The protagonist kills the guy. The elder, trying to stop the guy, yells at him to stop. The guy ditches the student, saying the ungrateful don't deserve a blessing like life. The elder starts attacking the guy, threatening to kill him. The young man offers 2 options: or they let Moshidian go, or he will destroy the sword sect and recover the ego himself. The elder begins to resent the guy's insolence, saying that he should be the one to choose how he wants to die, because they are stronger than egos. The man points his sword at the young man, and the other students begin to attack the ego. The protagonist pulls out a talisman, saying that the enemies have chosen death. One of the attackers destroys the amulet, laughing, saying they won't let the guy use his tricks. The protagonist defends himself against the attackers, saying that even without his tricks he will kill everyone. The protagonist covers enemies with his force field. The man notes that the young man is very talented, and if he were a disciple of the sect it would be wonderful. But he is waiting for his death today. The opponents all start attacking the guy together, but the protagonist begins to use the technique of 9 combat tricks and disposes of his attackers. The young man at the end of the technique kills one of the elders. Others won't stop attacking, calling the guy a demon. Opponents are starting to be thrown off by the guy's defensive technique. The young man uses another forbidden technique. The elder tells the guy that his techniques are nothing compared to his absolute power and asks the other students to share his power with him. The teacher, having accumulated enough energy, launches his attack. The protagonist builds up his strength to strike back. The two techniques are starting to collide. Eventually, the guy wins the battle of forces and kills his enemy towering over the defeated opponents. A young man is unexpectedly shot in the back. The protagonist lands on his knee asking the disciple that this is their boasted righteous sect. The guys start laughing, saying that in love as well as in war, all means are good. And they don't understand why the young man tries so hard to save the old man, if he is just a subordinate. The students start attacking the wounded guy. Jinshin uses his powers to tell his enemies that they have no right to insult his subordinate. This technique unleashes many blows on the sword sect disciples. The surviving students won't rest and say he's going to die. The young man, laughing, asks if this is their justice since they are not even able to defend their lands. The guy notices arrows coming at him. One of the archers starts yelling that he will deal with him and make him pay for the crime he committed in the cult. The young man calmly dodges all the arrows. He notices that he has already used up almost all of his strength because he has been weakened by illness. But he also has no intention of giving up and begins to use his powers. Eventually, he heals his wounds and reflects all the attacks of his opponents. He also starts attacking back. Ego's forbidden technique comes crashing down on the enemies. The attackers are still screaming that they'll get revenge and kill the guy. The young man tells them that retribution is just an excuse they use to make themselves feel better. Jinshin repeats that if they give up his subordinate, he will spare them. One of the enemies brings in an old man. The one starts warning the master to run away and leave him behind, because they have hired an expert above the Tao stage. The young man says he doesn't care, because the old man is his subordinate, and he will go through fire and water with him. The old man, dropping tears, thinks that if they get out, he will serve the master for the rest of his life. The guy orders the apprentice to let the old man go, but he starts saying that he knows he's already exhausted, and starts attacking the guy. The protagonist, in turn, thinks he has done everything he can, and it looks like he is finished. But he is protected from the enemy's attack by someone else's barrier. At that moment, the master's apprentice appears, and threateningly says that he dare not harm her master. Other allies come considering everything to understand what happened. They look at the ruins left by the sword sect, and can't believe that it was all done by their master alone. The girl asks the protagonist why he went alone. He knows that she will be worried. The guy replies that he is afraid of death, but the burden of the lives of his people it is harder for him to carry. Belle begins to attack all of the master's enemies, screaming that she will destroy all those who hurt him. Someone stops the girl's attack, also suppressing her power with his. A mysterious voice begins to ask the young man's men if this is war. It was a master named Dugu Liu Chen. Approaching the guy, he says his time has come. The guy asks the wizard if he's the reinforcement the old man was talking about. Dugu looked at the young man and was surprised that he was able to deal with an entire sect by himself. Master says he promised to protect the sect by attacking Jianchen. Maiden blocks a jab, but she lacks strength and gets hit. A young man catches the girl, asking if she's okay. The master launches a new attack, saying he will finish them off. Belle begins to show a sign saying she is the daughter of the Lord of the White Kingdom. She says she'll let him join their clan if he'll spare the guy. The enemy ponders the offer because it is the rarest and strongest clan in the city. The master considers the girl's proposal, but realizes that he can just kill everyone and no one will know about it. Guy notices the enemy is out for blood. The white-haired guy begins to reveal that the council is in charge of sect order, and he can't turn a blind eye to Jianchen's crimes. After that, he starts attacking the protagonist. The girl tries to protect the master with her body. The young man lets the girl go and rushes into battle, telling the enemy to be careful with his desires. The protagonist uses a forbidden technique out of last resort. The enemy is surprised that this technique raises his cultivation level to martial realm. The master attacks the young man, saying that he will not be affected by this, because he is stronger than him anyway. The protagonist stops the enemy's attack with one finger, saying that he is unable to ego kill. The youngster flies off, noticing that the hero has a very strong technique. However, the enemy does not intend to give up and starts attacking the protagonist again, saying that all his techniques will become his. The guy starts concentrating his energies, saying none of his friends will die, and begins to attack his opponent with a final blow. The young man's final attack smears the enemy to the ground. The enemy realizes that this last attack has deprived the ego of cultivation. He starts threatening the protagonist that if something happens to him, the War Council will not leave it so easily. The young man replies that when his sect was the greatest, then even the military council couldn't do anything. The guy lands on the ground and tells the girl they're leaving. He also adds that the enemy is not worthy of him taking his life. The guy turns to the enemy and says that if the War Council crosses them, they will all be killed. All of Jian Chen's followers are jubilant as they have destroyed the Star Sword sect. A young man stumbles and leans on a girl. The girl asks him if he's okay. The guy says they're leaving. A couple moments later, the protagonist falls in front of the girl. Ta starts crying, calling for the master while the rest of the followers run to him. The healer checks the young man's condition. The doctor says that the master has no strength left and his energy and body are in bad shape. The alchemist also says he doesn't know how to help him. The fat man starts screaming that he doesn't believe a master can die like that. An old man from a demonic cult says he can help. If he takes him to a demonic cult, the fortress deep in the mountains, demon sect. The old man carries the young man while the sect disciples try to say that the sect leader was looking for ego. Elder opens some passageway while the disciples are trying to warn him that only the leader can go in. But the old man says he will take full responsibility and talk to the leader. The old man lays the young man in the bloody pool and orders the students to guard and let no one in. One of the guys starts explaining that this pool is filled with a liquid that has incredible properties to heal wounds, but also makes humans incredibly violent. The old man says he believes the kid can handle it. The elder leaves saying he'll go talk to the leader to get his approval. The two guys say goodbye to the master and say they'll keep an eye on the boy. The liquid in the tank begins to heal the young man's wounds. The young man opens his eyes and he hears someone insulting him, asking him if he hasn't ascended. The protagonist finally wakes up and sees his ego being called names by some chicken. Proto asks the bird what he's doing here calling him a chicken. The bird gets angry saying he's the one and only Hell Phoenix. Phoenix tells that it was he in his past life who saved the hero from an impending doom by leading him here. The guy says he was trying to save the bird. As the bird comes out of the tank, it starts screaming at the guy, saying that he could at least say thank you for saving it. Phoenix begins to berate the young man, pointing at himself, and his condition blaming him for what happened. The guy packing his stuff replies that he'll try to talk to the cult leader and pick him up. At this point, an old man comes in, asking the guy if he wants to grab a bite to eat after his recovery. The young man grabs the old man and runs away. The elder asks the guy if he wants to lie down a little longer and recover, to which the hero replies he's not a fan of chicken blood. The old man looks at the pool and points to the bird, surprised, asking if that chicken has always been there. After leaving, the protagonist tells the old man to go back to the sect, and tells the others to get ready because they are going to attack the allied clans and the 8 gates. Seeing the old man off, the guy says he needs to talk to the leader of the demonic sect. At this time, a man in purple robes appears in front of the guy and asks Ego what he wanted to talk to him about. The young man realizes he's facing a cult leader. The protagonist thanks the man, saying that if the demonic sect has any problems, he is willing to help. The master replies that his sect has been around for a long time, and that there will hardly ever be a time when they need the boy's help. The young man replies that he believes this too, but he saw a bald rooster in the pool and asks if he could take his ego. The man replies that this is not possible because the phoenix is the symbol and power of the sect. The guy tries to exchange the phoenix by offering a method of cultivation and a martial art form. The two men stare at each other in complete silence. In the end, the master kicks the guy out, saying that he can't give the bird away because it is the main power of the sect. The guy shakes off the dust and walks away. The master, looking at the young man, notices that he possesses the legacy of the demon god of the sunset. Although it has not yet been extracted from the ego ruins, he assumes that the boy is the reincarnation of this creature. The master remarks that perhaps he is the one they have been waiting for. The young man flies into the neighboring clan's territories, seeing that the old man has done his bidding. At this time, Jianchen's followers were facing the defense of the clans in alliance with the 8 gates in the allied clan square. The protagonists of the 8 gates and the clan alliance mock the protagonists' men, saying if they knew they were so weak they wouldn't lure them into their trap. The girl is weakened by the ambush of the enemies, says that if not for the trap they would already be dead. The old man says that the opponents are just delaying their deaths because when Jianchen comes, they will die. The old men start laughing at the followers' words, saying that if the guy was here, he would just die because his cultivation is too small to kill them. Belle begins to argue with her enemies, saying it's not true. One of the elders begins to attack the girl. She fails to defend herself, gets hit, which rips off some of her clothes. The old men start abusing the girl. Then the main character arrives and takes the girl from the clutches of villains without realizing who did it. After which, the young man introduces himself as Jian Chen of the incomparable sect and attacks the old men. Those in turn dodge the attack. The young man gently pulls the girl down and says he will protect her. The guy mockingly asks, "This is what the righteous sect is all about," and the old man starts telling him that they not only put a bounty on his head, but were going to murder Lady Bai. The protagonist tells the others not to worry and assume that the enemies are already dead, and pulls out many talismans. The old men start yelling at the guy, saying he's too weak to defeat them, and add that they'll rape the innocent girl behind him, after which they start going on the attack against the guy. Young applying talismans, calling opponents clowns. The old men repel the guy's attacks, saying that such techniques can't break through their defenses. But the guy's attacks do get through the enemy's defenses and they start begging for mercy. The guy doesn't listen to them and kills 2 elders. The disciples of the enemy sect start running away begging for forgiveness, seeing as their masters were so easily killed. The young man returns to his friends, and they are happy to see him. The protagonist begins to give orders to empty the clan's treasury and move everything there was to their warehouse. Also telling Tongsan and Luo Shan to go along with him to deal with the Dark Pavilion. One of the subordinates reported to the guy that all the preparations he had asked for were ready. Houses on the square, Dark Pavilion area. The old men tell the protagonist that the barrier is set, and the cultivators are ready. The protagonist starts walking towards the pavilion, saying it's time for him to get even. A man comes out to meet him, asking why the guy is so negative against the pavilion, because they run an honest business. The young masked man replies that he is aware that this is not just a hotel, but a branch of the Dark Pavilion. At this point, the men in black appear behind the man, and he asks the protagonist if knowing who they are he is going to fight. The guy replies that he's ready to fight, because afterwards, they can't get back at him. Then an assassin appears behind the young man's back and says he's overconfident. At this point, the protagonist is surprised that such a small branch has such a strong fighter. The guy shoves the allies off the back, saying he'll handle it himself. At this time, the assassins attack the young man. The protagonist, flying above the enemies, tells them that he has never been afraid of anything. The guy applies his technique and a hail of swords begins to fall on the enemies. While the swords are falling on the hero, an assassin attacks. The young man replies to the shadowy killer that he is cruel, as he quietly watches his comrades die, to which he replies that he has poisoned the boy with his poison, and he will see how long the young man will last. But as the assassin retreats, he notices that the poison hasn't worked on the guy, and the attacks continue. A young man asks his enemy if he is mocking him, after which he starts attacking the assassins without touching the assassin. The latter asks why the guy doesn't kill the ego. The protagonist responds to the one that wants to put a blood mark on him. The man, smirking, tells the guy he's overconfident, after which it dissolves into a black mist. The young man, however, extending his hand, begins to laugh. The guy ends up catching an assassin, telling him to rid his ego of these tricks, then starts floating in the air emitting light, saying it's time for him to finish this. The man looking at the guy realizes he can't budge, after which the protagonist uses his technique. This technique wipes out the assassin. After using the forbidden technique, the young man falls to the ground, thinking that without this technique, he would not be able to deal with the man. But the consequences after using it are too strong. At this point, the worried old men run to the young man. One of them takes the guy on his shoulder. The protagonist tells the one to take him to a demonic sect. The old man, worried, asks if it will really help. After the old man's words, the young man replies that of course he will help by raising his finger up. One day later, the young man is already lounging in the pool while listening to the rooster scold the ego. The boy, not understanding why the bird is complaining, because he is almost dead. The phoenix replies that the ego does not care, because if he himself stays in the pool, he will die. The protagonist begins to smile fearfully, responding with what's wrong with that since chicken broth helps with all diseases. Phoenix starts begging the young man to release his ego, to which the guy replies that he can't do it because Mo Yan is obsessed with imprisoning the bird here, and he's too strong to compete with him. The chicken can't believe the guy's words, asking if he's really that strong. The protagonist replies that he'll find a way to get him out, after which the guy starts running away. The protagonist is stopped by the cult leader, telling him to stop using the blood pond as a swimming pool, because it's his own pool and it's not public. The kid puts a coin in the man's palm and tries to negotiate with him. Then he starts asking if he has seen the chicken, because the chicken will die soon if he stays there. So why doesn't he want to give it to the guy? The man replies that he can't give the bird away for nothing. The protagonist realizes that the trickster has been planning this all along. The guy asks the leader what he wants in return for the phoenix. After the words of the young man, that Amu replies that he wants Linlan Wentian, master of spiritual arts, dead. The leader begins to tell that this man is the cause of the decline of the demonic sect. The guy asks how he imagines that he who has not even reached the Dao stage has defeated such a rival. The man replies that he doesn't expect the guy to do it right now, because a promise is enough for him. The master goes on to explain that the Martial Arts Council currently rules the continent of Atheus, and all other sects and academies are forced to obey. The young man asks the leader why he would take such a risk and go against the alliance. The latter replies to the boy that since he has set a goal to return the incomparable sect to its former greatness, he will go against them in any case, because they will not like a powerful enemy on the same continent, and the young man also needs that shabby chicken. The protagonist then agrees to the head's demands. After the treaty is concluded, they approach the lake. The master remarks that if he needs the blood of the phoenix, he will come to the young man. The leader then releases the phoenix from its chains. The young man thanks the master for the favor. At this time, the phoenix rejoices in release. The master didn't like the bird's behavior and beat it, saying it was too energetic, asking it if it was going to run away. The phoenix, falling to the ground, asks the elder what level of cultivation he is at because he is too strong. He replies that he has recently stepped into the 5 marks of destruction. The protagonist realizes that this man is about to ascend, and it's no wonder that the legacy of the demonic sect is still intact. The leader escorts the young man away, telling him to return as soon as he fulfills his promise. The guy returns to his sect, where he is greeted by his entire subjugation. The fat man notices the scraped-up bird, saying he wouldn't mind some chicken soup. The phoenix then starts screaming and calling the fat man names. The teacher tells the young man that the Daegu City Department has ordered him to appear at the hearing. The boy replies that the Martial Arts Council is working fast because they are the strongest on the continent and have no choice but to show up. The old man says it's definitely a trap. The guy decides to go on a journey because the ego sect is the strongest in their area. The subordinates are upset and ask the master if he has renounced the sect, to which the guy replies that he is reinstating the teacher as sect leader, also passing on the fire armada techniques and divinity recordings to him. The young man also hands over 2 scrolls containing everything he knew about creating pills and arrays, asking those to take care of the sect in his stead, then leaves, saying goodbye to his men in hopes of meeting again. The protagonist arrives at the doorstep of Min Academy in hopes that they will help him. The guy, remembering that the local elder was interested in him. While the guy was standing there, someone was watching him. The old man looks at the guy and tells the principal that this young man is Jian Chen. The principal orders the old man to bring the guy to him. The young man entering the academy heard from the other students that Ego had been appointed a holy son. Another disciple blocks the guy, saying he was looking for him. It was Nelan Feng Yun from the inner courtyard. The young man, looking at the guy, thinks what kind of dumbass blocked his path, also telling him to get out of the way. The guy attacks the protagonist, saying that a coward like him can't order him around. Young sends his opponent flying with a single punch. The fight is interrupted by the elder disciplinarian. The apprentice starts accusing the protagonist of attacking him. The young man thinks his opponent is just a rabid dog, but it turns out he had a plan. The hall elder starts accusing the guy of leaving the academy without the head's permission and starting a fight when he returns. The old man orders the young man to be taken away, at which point the egos are surrounded. The protagonist asks if the old man was a friend of Elder Lu, also noting that the latter wants to go to hell together. Elder says for a guy to surrender to the Council of Discipline otherwise. The protagonist interrupts the old man, accusing him of abusing his authority to fulfill personal goals. The old man starts attacking the guy, confessing that he wants to kill him. The protagonist prepares to attack. However, at that moment, the head elder puts his hand on the guy's shoulder, telling him to stop because they won't survive the consequences if the guy makes a scene here. Then the old man waved his hand and nailed the elder to the ground, saying that he had exceeded his authority and that he was depriving him of his position. The man starts to justify himself to the old man, saying that he was tricked by the guy. However, the old man says that he will strip the ego meridian and it will set another example. The elder of the discipline hall, resisting the old man's power, attacks the guy, screaming that he's going to take him with him. The protagonist sends the man flying with a single blow, justifying himself to the elder by saying it was a reflex. The old man replies that it doesn't matter and calls the guy to follow him. The protagonist, along with an old man, come to the garden of the academy's headmaster. The man greets the guy while the old man explains that he is the head of Mingquan Renshao Academy. The guy is surprised that the principal is a berserker and the old man is a practitioner, because they are very rare professions. The young man asks Quanzheng why he waited for him. He tells him he knows he's being hunted. The protagonist makes the assumption that they want to protect the ego. The man says that they will not be able to protect the guy, however knows another place where he will be safe, this organization called Hunters Association. The director goes on to talk about how this organization is so powerful that even the council will have to think twice before attacking. The young man ponders the proposal and marvels that the association has evolved so much in 3,000 years. The headmaster insists on joining, but the young man replies that a righteous man like him cannot join such a sect. The old man is surprised at the guy's words, so much so that he spits up the water he was drinking at that moment. He starts wailing about how the guy destroyed 3 great sects. The protagonist responds to the old man by saying that there were other circumstances there, and he is unlikely to join the association anyway. The man shows the guy a piece of paper saying it's a letter of recommendation to join. The young man, accepting the letter, thinks it's strange. Why would he write a letter for someone he's meeting for the first time? An old man notices a python at the academy gate and asks the guy if it's the bird's ego, after which the young man runs away, answering that he has to go. The others are looking at the guy and discussing how curious he is. A young man comes to the gate and sees a phoenix that is harassing other people. The boy approaches the bird, telling it that they need to leave, and Ego wants to sit two strong masters. Then the bird takes off screaming that it doesn't want to be eaten. The guy and the phoenix arrived in some woods. Proto tells the bird that he's going to visit the Hunters Association and doesn't need an escort, then offers to split up but keep in touch. Then he grabs the kid by the head and puts a bloody seal on it. After the seal is applied, he leaves saying that he will contact the bird, but in the meantime he says goodbye to him. The guy notices the woods are too quiet. At this point, the Ego is surrounded by people. One of the attackers says they were waiting for him to come. The protagonist notices that his attacker was Gu Liu and took 3 assassins, a swordsman and an array master with him. The attackers reply to the guy that the day of Ego's death has come. Then they all attack the guy. All attacks hit the protagonist. However, the enemies see the young man blurred out a bit, saying that they put on a pretty good show, throwing them a low-level spiritual stone. The attacker starts screaming, realizing it's just an illusion they fell for. After which the guy just evaporates before his eyes, while Gu Lu's submission discusses the fact that the young master was tricked. At this time, the real Zhao Chen had already arrived at the doorstep of the Beastmaster Association. The guy clenches his fist and says he's gonna pay for what he did, after which he heads for the gate. But as he enters, he sees that the place looks more like a bazaar than an academy. The old man asks the guy why he should join the association since he doesn't look like the others. The guy asks what he means. He says that it is very dangerous because the members of the association risk their lives every day to survive and earn a living. However, the old man adds that despite all the dangers, there are no rules here, and there is freedom of action. To which the guy replies that this is what he needs, giving a letter of recommendation to the old man. The elder reads the letter and is surprised that it's from the head of the Northern Academy. He replies to the guy that he can't make such a decision himself, and will go to the head to make a decision. After the old man leaves, other people start asking the young man how he knows the academy director. The one simply replies that he knows him and nothing more, thinking that as Quan Ren was a member of the Beastmen, and as the one who later became the director of the Northern Academy. Then an old man comes running in saying that here's his plaque, and he's moved into room 3 of the dormitory. While the other students are surprised that he brought a white plaque for the guy, because it means that he might become an elder. The guy accepts the plaque while other students tell him they won't obey him. He tells them that he won't stay with them for long, asking them to let him pass. A young man looking for his room thinks that people here are more entertaining because they tell everything to their faces without plotting. The guy finds his room by opening it. Walking into the room, the guy meets a naked girl who was taking a bath. She sees the guy and starts covering up and yelling that he's a pervert. Pretty girl getting out of the bath says she'll show the guy what it's like to peep at girls. The guy replies to the girl that she clearly has a problem with her brain, because it was she who took a bath in the ego room. The beauty, bickering, begins to tell the guy not to justify himself. The guy notices that the girl is a summoner who uses a flute. The protagonist grabs the beauty, saying he's not going to let her summon her animals. She starts screaming for him to let her go or she'll kill him. The boy pushes the beauty against the wall. She screams at him not to even think of doing anything, to which the protagonist simply throws her out of the room. The girl sitting by the door hears the guy say that peace has finally come. After that, the girl is called by a man asking her what happened. She starts yelling that her father was on time and tells how some guy broke into her room and then threw her out of it. The young man opens the door and says that the girl is not right because she was the one who splashed in the bathroom of his room. The man starts to say that it was probably a misunderstanding, introducing himself as Ye Min, and that the girl is his daughter Ye Hun because they usually live together in this dormitory, so the girl is used to using the room she likes. The protagonist replies that since the man is the head, he's not going to make a big deal out of it, while the girl is unhappy with her father's decision and yells at him. The man answers the girl and tells her to go to her room because she's already made a mess of things and he needs to talk to the guy for just the two of them. The girl runs away in tears, saying she won't talk to her father anymore. The head apologizes for his daughter's behavior, to which the guy replies that it's okay asking the man what he wanted to talk to him about. The man says that Dugu Chen was furious that the guy joined the Beastmen, and his subordinates passed on the message that he had reported the protagonist to the association, and he would be punished. The protagonist starts to get angry with Dugu Chen. The head tells him that he wouldn't pay attention to them, but the guy's sect is under threat. The guy remembers that the War Council has no right to go to war with any sect. The man interrupting the guy says that he is right, however, because he destroyed 3 great sects being the head of a peerless sect and refused to take punishment for it. That's enough for the council to declare war on him. The guy, smirking, says what if he isn't the head of the cult? To which the man replies that it's already interesting. After a while, a guy arrives on the doorstep of the Beastmaster sect and shouts for Jian Chen to stop hiding and answer for his deeds, or they will attack the ego-peerless sect. After the words of the guy from the military council, the protagonist comes out to them with the head of the association, saying that they are trying to blackmail him with his own sect because they can't take his life. The head also points out that the people from the council are provoking the association with their actions right outside his gate. The guy accuses the head, saying that even though Jian Chen destroyed 3 sects, he made Ego the elder of his association, and because of that, he fell in the eyes of the council, to which the man asks what they know about the fact that the young man is no longer the head of the sect, to which the council representatives try to find confirmation of the head's words. One of the representatives finds confirmation of the head's words. Then the young gentleman calls all the men off, saying that if they resort to action, the other men will start saying that they are overstepping their authority, whereupon the accuser leaves. The young gentleman and the protagonist look at each other, thinking they will sort each other out. 10 days later, the protagonist cultivates in his room. The young man notices the change in his energy opening the chakra, saying that the chakra is the strongest kind of energy of the many others. The guy decides to test his new power on a block of ice.
Then the girl starts yelling at the guy, asking why he destroyed her icebox. Also notices that the guy is causing one problem.
The guy realizes the old man's up to something interesting. The young man feeds to make amends to the girl, offering to share techniques in return. Belle starts yelling for him to give her the icebox back or leave. Proto starts making excuses, saying he didn't do it on purpose. The girl, after the guy's words, starts walking away, practically crying, saying that because of the guy, her father no longer pays attention to her. After the girl leaves, the protagonist hears her screaming. Coming to the place, he notices Dugu Cheng's footprints. The young man jumps off the roof, telling his subordinate that if he doesn't return within 15 minutes, he should tell the association and other sects that Yehan is missing, and then let everyone go to him. Forest of Primordials. The thief says Yamin. Ye has been getting on his nerves for a while now, and he'll see who he is. Pick the boyfriend or his daughter. Then the main character appears behind the thief's back, saying he'll watch him get his revenge. The enemy turns around, seeing Jian Chen, and starts shouting that the guy can't wait to die since he came to this place. The protagonist attacks the kidnapper, saying he can't listen to all the nonsense he's talking about anymore. The enemy dodges the guy's punch, saying he can't wait to see him die. However, the protagonist finds the seal that was supposed to kill Ego. He, laughing at the kid, says that such a trap will be seen even by a child. The thief can't believe that the young man found the seal so quickly, because the master created it especially for him. The enemy attacks the guy, screaming that he can't accept the fact that he was able to break the seal set by the Master of Seals. The young man calmly blocks the attack, asking the enemy that after reaching the Tao stage, did he really think he could overpower the ego? He can't believe the guy's ego is stronger than the guy calling him a monster. The protagonist notices some people starting to come out. Young lands a jab to the kidnapper's midsection. The guy who got hit starts screaming, saying that the young man can't kill Ego because he is a great elder of the Martial Arts Council. The council won't forgive him for killing Ego. A guy takes a girl by the throat, threatening to snap her neck if they don't let him go. After the youngster's words, the head of the Beastmen appears with his men, who are clearly unhappy that Dugu Cheng has kidnapped their leader's daughter. The thief begins to accuse the protagonist of having set it all up. The young man replies that he did not do anything, because it was not him who forced the guy to steal the head's daughter. The old man begins to shut up the kidnapper, saying that he will not listen to Ego, and if he wants war so much, he will get it. At the same time, 2 unknown men in a tree are watching the whole thing, discussing the fact that Dugu Cheng will start a war between the council and the Beastmen because of Dugu Cheng. It was the head of the Beigou City Council, Liu Wu, and an Ego subordinate. Then the head noticed that the kid went against the orders of the other council members to help the Ego forces on the next stage of the plan. Then starts using his technique to tell everyone that the head of the Beigou Council is here to get rid of the idiot Dugu Chen, who is not worthy of his position. The head of the Beastie Boys still says he won't let things slide and will definitely deal with the council. The battered guy yells that Liu Wu can't kick him out because he is the great elder of the council. The guy starts offering a deal to the man to trade his daughter for the protagonist. The head begins to think that even if he agrees, there is no guarantee that the guy will not harm his daughter. Also noting that if Jian Chen really is the reincarnation of that man, he is the only one who can change this rotten world. The old man does not agree to the exchange. However, Proto interrupts him and agrees to the deal. The man tells the guy that he shouldn't agree because it's not his fault, But the protagonist says he doesn't feel guilty. He just takes responsibility for what happened. The thief starts laughing, saying the guy made the right decision. He starts yelling, telling the guy to activate the seal and have the man block the guy's power. The guy agrees, saying it's the only way to save Yehan. The man starts blocking the guy's power, saying that once his daughter is safe, he will save him. To which the guy responds that it's okay, thinking that the usual blocking methods don't work on him. The enemy cheers, grabbing the guy's arm. The one is stepping on the seal. Then dumps the girl, saying they can have her. The kid holding the protagonist starts laughing, saying he'll pay him back for everything he's done. The head catches his daughter, but sees that the seal has already been activated. The protagonist, mocking the boy, says that he can't believe the stupidity of his rival because he created the perfect moment for him to fake his death. In response, the young man says that he will not be able to get out of his trap. Then the guy starts to disappear and explains that he can't kill him because he knows the blood cloud technique. After which he disappears, leaving the guy alone to die in that seal. Everyone who was there sees the explosion, thinking Proto died. The head of the beastman starts yelling that he won't rest until everyone on the council is in their graves. Somewhere in the woods, a phoenix is examining itself in a mirror, then sees the main character in the reflection. The bird begins to snidely tell the boy that he has found adventures on his head again, and that's why he came to him. The young man tells the phoenix to shut up and gives him the essence to recover. The rooster tells him to get the essence he must ego beg. The guy asks him how he would like to die, boiled or roasted, whereupon the bird wounds his wing, saying it was just a joke and here is his essence. After receiving blood, the protagonist begins to cultivate to repair his wounds. The young man feels the energy begin to build up in his heart. The guy realizes he's starting to awaken his avatar. Phoenix notes that it's not an ego avatar because the guy had a different avatar in his past life. However, the guy is starting to get wrapped up in more and more energy, and they realize the guy is awakening two avatars. The young man realizes that avatars are all unique, and the cultivator has the ability to awaken only one, which was left to him by the previous owner. But those who were able to awaken two avatars are one in millions. Guy notices that his avatar is an imperial vine. The previous owner was the deity of water and ancient, who was his friend in a past life. Then the avatar of the body owner appears. The protagonist starts stroking that one, saying he won't dishonor the ego name. After that, the young man begins to be filled with energy again. He realizes that a third avatar has awakened, and this one was already from his past life, Heavenly Lamb Incarnations. The protagonist realizes that the Heavenly Lamb of Incarnations is both the strongest and weakest avatar, because to activate it, the owner must make a sacrifice. The youngster and the bird notice that the avatar has been activated, after which the girl's spirit flies out of it. She asks the guy to find her in the next life, if rebirth exists. The guy, crying, says it's Yue Leo. He remembers how in a past life a girl sacrificed her avatar in order to activate the Lamb of Incarnations, which also explains why the guy remembers his past life. A young man, crying, tries to take the girl's hand, but she vanishes. The protagonist then begins to promise himself that he will do anything to find Yue Liu. Phoenix begins to reassure the guy, saying that although he doesn't know what happened to him on the Imperial continent, he'll stay by his side. The guy starts to change his appearance and leaves, saying that he is going to Beigou City, because no one knows that he is still alive. For everyone, Jian Chen died in the primordial forest with Dugu Chen. The protagonist sits in the inn listening to the other customers discuss the fact that the beastmen are beginning to gather cultivators to destroy the council, as well as rumors that a great berserker has arrived in town to avenge the death of Jian Chen. The guy thinks he needs to keep an eye on the members of the association if they're going to go that far for him. And about the berserker, he thinks it's probably Quan Ren. He gets up, deciding that he needs to get stronger and reach the master stage. But to do so, he needs to redirect all the spiritual energy into his chakra. As the protagonist was leaving, a kid ran by him, shouting that the daughter of the Lord of Beigou City was missing in the Forest of Primordials. Then the guy heard that for finding the Lord's daughter, he would give pieces of chakra wood as a reward. A crowd has gathered at the gates of the Lord's city estate. However, the guards begin to chase away all those who have not reached the master stage. Many of the crowd begin to leave, saying they are just wasting their time. The protagonist, approaching the guards, hears the news that the Lord has been wounded and has not fully recovered. The boy understands why Beigou is so unsettled. The boy asks him to let him pass because he knows his way through the forest. The guard replies that he is not the first to say so. The young man says there's a phoenix in the forest. He's still a novice, but he's defeated many creatures of the master stage, and he fought it once. The guard notes that the Lord had told about it, but no one knew it yet. After which he lets the guy go ahead. Others who were missed start discussing the guy, saying that he's obviously a freeloader, and it's better he doesn't go near them. The young man looking at the masters thinks that if this group of 2 sword masters, a seal master and a mercenary go into the forest, they will be torn apart by a horde of hungry creatures. The Lord's subordinates come out and ask to follow him. All of the participants came to the Lord of the city greeting egos. Lord Masibe begins to say that everyone present knows what he has gathered them for, after which he shows the award. 2 of the company begin to marvel at the reward, however the protagonist is not pleased that he only showed 1 piece. One of the company asks the Lord how they will divide this piece among themselves, since the piece is 1 and there are 4 of them. The guy interrupts him saying that there are 5 of them. The young man suggests to the Lord that the reward should go to whoever brings back his daughter. The old man notes that the Tao stage boy is quite entertaining, but says that after they get his daughter back, they will decide how to divide the reward. Continuing, the Lord begins to show his power, saying that if they fail and a single hair falls from his daughter's head, they will die. Others see the Lord's strength and begin to bow and assure him that they will surely make it through. The guy leaves, saying that if they've decided on the reward, he'll go. The mercenary also says goodbye to the Lord. The group starts discussing the guy, saying they heard from the guard how well he knows the forest. The group comes to the conclusion that they'll just follow the guy and then kill him and take the reward for themselves. The young man had heard the mercenaries talking and really hoped they would be ready. Already in the forest, the protagonist meets a phoenix, asking if he has found the girl. The bird replies that he has found her, but she is unconscious, and there are 2 sword masters and 1 mercenary near her. The guy starts telling his plan to the phoenix,
after which he tells the bird that he's counting on him.
A young man arrives at a place where there is a girl and hears 2 men discussing how the martial arts council could have fallen so low. The guy realizes these people are from the council. People discuss that Tomb 9 has been opened and the Lord has a map of this tomb, so they kidnapped his daughter to make a deal. Then the guy is met by a group of mercenaries telling him to tell them where the girl is, or they will kill him. The young man replies that he has finally waited for them. The guy disappearing says she's in there. Then he starts shouting that Mrs. Beigou Yanzhou is over there by the lake. At this time, the kidnappers hear the boys shout and prepare to attack. A group of mercenaries realize the kid's just screwing them over, after which the council people attack the mercenaries. The mercenaries try to justify that they were lured into a trap. The attacker asks why he should believe them. The protagonist, seeing the fight subside a bit, throws a dagger. One of the mercenaries thinks they can't afford to fall into a trap, even if the target is right in front of them. However, the dagger thrown by the protagonist grazes the enemy. The mercenaries are trying to say they weren't the ones who attacked. However, the enemy begins to attack the group, saying that they will lie already in hell. The group realizes that they can't avoid the fight, so they also start attacking the enemy. The chief of the kidnappers tells one of his comrades to go and help the others deal with their enemies. Then he starts saying that his men will not lose to some mercenaries, and he only has to watch his back so that no one sneaks up from behind. Then he hears a voice saying that he has nothing personal against him. The man turns around asking who said that. The guy replies that he is the one who will take his life. The protagonist kills the opponent with his punch. After that, the young man takes the girl and runs away, saying that she is cute, but she is not very clever, because to run away at such a time in the forest will be only an idiot. But he will try to be lenient to her, because thanks to her, he will get a tree of chakra. One of the kidnappers notices their brother has been murdered, then starts accusing the mercenaries that this was their plan, and they fought them on purpose to steal the girl. The mercenaries managed to escape from their pursuers and caught up with a guy who was running away with a girl in his arms. The protagonist stops to say that they were quicker than he thought. The opponents start yelling at the guy to give up the girl, or they will kill him. The guy gently puts the girl down, saying they can't do anything to him. After that, the opponent starts attacking the guy. The young man prepares to attack, saying he doesn't mind dancing since they want to. The guy attacks his enemy by chopping his sword. The enemy can't understand how he was able to shatter his sword, since it's made of the finest metal. The enemy falls to the ground, whereupon the guy says they're next. Enemies attack the guy, saying he's an arrogant bastard. The young man kills 2 opponents by piercing their hearts in one move. The protagonist looks at the last of the group, asking if he's ready to go to hell. The guy tries to save his life by saying he'll tell the protagonist everything the council is hiding. The kid starts telling us that 10 days ago, the tomb of the 9 palaces of the prosperity sect that disappeared was opened, and the council wants to take all the treasures for themselves, also noting that he could take him there if he spared him. The young man kills the boy, saying he is grateful for the information, but he did not say he would spare him because he is from the council. The protagonist brings the girl to the Lord's palace. The courtier tells him to follow him as the Lord wants to thank him personally. The guy realizes there's a catch to the personal thank you. The Lord sat with the mysterious man asking him if he should follow the plan. The man replies that there is no hurry. A young man enters the hall and tells the Lord to give him the reward. Machibe replies that it is an honor for someone like him to save the Lord's daughter, asking him how he can be so insolent to ask for the reward. The old man throws the award hard at the guy, telling him to take it. The young man calmly catches the box, asking the elder if it was an honor to fight high-level cultivators in the forest. The old man grins at the guy, thinking that he is very interesting because he caught the box in which he put 30% of his power. Then the old man starts yelling at the young man to get on his knees. The guy replies that he would never kneel. Noticing that only one should be kneeling here, the protagonist begins to unleash his avatar. The protagonist attacks an old man with his avatar. Lord, backed against the wall, wonders why the ego avatar obeys the guy. The young man starts threatening that in 20 seconds a thunderstorm will hit the estate. The hooded man begins to persuade the lad to stop, for he is the head of the Beastmasters Association, and the Lord's behavior is his doing. He offers the treasure as an apology. The guy doesn't understand why his familiar is here. However, he asks for 3 pieces of chakra wood. The head gives the pieces to the guy. The young man thanks the head, thinking that now with 4 pieces, he would be able to learn the master stage in less than a month. The guy lets the Lord go as he snaps at him. He then assumes his true form, asking Hedi if he's going to do anything while Matsibei is about to raise his hand on his subordinate. The one sees the guy and happily comes down to him, saying he can't let the Lord touch him. The Lord is glad he didn't harm the boy because Quan Ren would have wiped him out. The chapter tells him that Quan Ren, upon learning that he was dead, came to Bega and defeated the Martial Arts Council, also saying that if he didn't return to his academy, he would die. The guy doesn't understand why he has to do all this. The young man is reincarnated and says goodbye, saying he has a lot to do. The old guys start gushing over the guy, saying that if he's not the reincarnation of that man, then who is? After 5 days, the protagonist reaches the master stage. The young man begins to reason that after choosing a path, ordinary people can only choose one path. But those who cultivate using divine scripture can freely switch from one path to another. But there is a disadvantage: the cultivation speed is greatly reduced. Proto thought about it and decided he would choose the path of a warrior first. After choosing a path, the guy finally took the path of a warrior. However, his avatar started to act and also opened all 15 paths of development. The protagonist rejoices in the acquired power, also assuming that if all paths are linked and pumped by using only one, he will only focus on pumping the warrior path. As he leaves the inn, he hears someone shouting that a tavern is opening with crazy prices. The young man is interested in this news and decides to see what is going on there. The protagonist is stopped by a kid telling him that he can't stay here because he just doesn't have enough money to even drink here. He asks the boy why he can only determine his wealth by his clothes. The young man replies that he understood everything by name, because 1 cup of wine here costs 1 million high-ranking stones. After which the other innkeepers start laughing at the guy. The protagonist, laughing, throws 1 million rocks on the floor, asking the kid if he's sure of what he's saying. The attendees start yelling at the protagonist, saying that everyone present can afford to spend 1 million stones. A young man asks the waiter to escort Ego to the 2nd floor, mocking the others. The protagonist is brought a bottle of wine that he paid for. He tastes the wine and realizes that it strengthens the soul. Proto starts pouring the entire bottle into himself, after which he praises him. However, one of the visitors starts wailing, asking the guy what cave he came out of. The disgruntled man goes on to say that this wine was not made by Mrs. May to be drunk so viciously. The protagonist responds to the major to stay out of his business. He starts telling the young man to take his 1,000,000 stones and leave the place, because he doesn't want to be here with such an animal. After snapping the protagonist's finger, a multitude of spirit stones fell out at the guest. The guy gets out and starts yelling, asking how he can throw his rocks at him. After which, Master Luo and Master Chen enter the floor. The guest starts laughing, saying that it is his uncle who has arrived, and he will not forgive his nephew's humiliation. The nephew starts running up to his uncle, complaining about being insulted. They're asking who dared to insult. They see Jen Chen. After they realize that the protagonist is in front of them, they kick the guy, telling him to immediately apologize to this gentleman. The kid doesn't understand why he has to apologize. The young man forces his nephew to kneel down, saying to apologize, thinking that of all the possibilities, it was Jian Chen who pissed him off. He then turns to the protagonist, telling him that he can choose any punishment he wants for his nephew. At the same time, he thinks that he inflicted serious wounds on him at the academy when he was at the Dao stage, and he'll be laughed at if they fight now that they're at the same stage. The protagonist replies that it would be inappropriate of him to instruct his nephew. Because of Proto's words, Chen Yu has to raise his hand at the kid. Other visitors can't figure out who the white-haired guy is. After that, he asks him if his brother is happy. He also starts to pass his voice to the protagonist, saying that there are a lot of people here, and if he agrees to stop this show, he will pay for whatever he orders today. The boy says that's not enough, because he hasn't forgotten how Ego almost killed Ange because of him. Master Chen says he'll do everything in his power, but don't let the boy get carried away. The protagonist, going up to the second floor, says he's waiting for his brother there. As they walk up, they see some guy yelling at them to stop. The bankmaster introduces himself to the stranger by asking how he can address him. The unknown man begins to haughtily say that plebs like him have no right to be here. The bank heir starts yelling angrily at the guy, asking Ego how dare he talk to him like that. He starts to show his power by asking who he is. The stranger shows his power by answering nothing to the heir. Chen realizes that Luo Tiancheng from the Martial Arts Council is in front of them. The one starts attacking the two guys who are up. The heir asks the protagonist to deal with him because he will pay him. The guy answers him that he will help him with 10 million high-ranking spiritual stones. Young strikes back with a jab. Upon impact, the avatar of the guy from the council bounces back, taking heavy damage that also affected the wielder. The opponent starts shouting that he will deal with the guy, to which the young man replies that he does not have enough strength. The fight is interrupted by a girl, accompanied by a master, asking them to calm down, because her establishment will not withstand the fight of guys like them. The protagonist says that since she is Nayland Meyer, he is willing to forget today's incident for her sake. The bodyguard starts yelling at the guy, showing his strength. However, the beauty stops him. The young men realize that this guard is the Dark King. The girl asks if they have resolved the conflict or not, to which the two agree to stop. The guy from the council tells everyone to cut the crap because he's heard that all the wine sold in the restaurant is defective, and only the wine the girl made herself is real. After the guy's words, she put out bowls of wine on the table, saying that each of them would cost them 10 million excellent spirit stones each. The kid taking the bowl says the money will be delivered later, and now he hopes the wine ego doesn't disappoint. The heir treats the protagonist, saying that he will pay for everything because he promised. A young man drinking wine increases his cultivation level. Luo Tian asks the lady how and what her wine is used for, to which she replies that it is made with water. The heir says the World Bank is very interested in the wine formula, and the price will be whatever she wants it to be. After the guy's words, other members of clans and sects start bursting in from the lower floors, saying they're ready to buy back the wine recipe. The council guy starts threatening the pretty girl. Nayland Meyer replies to the boy that if he wants a recipe for wine, he can go to any distillery. The one keeps threateningly telling her that he won't trick him just because the Dark King is behind her. Zazan continues to say that he is the son of Lin Lan Wentian, the pavilion master, and if she hands over the recipe, he will give her the position of wife and offer her as a mercenary to the military court branch. The Dark King starts to attack the boy, saying how dare he treat his mistress in such a way, to which the impudent replies that if he touches him, the girl will die. Bell replies to Luo Tian that he is just an illegitimate child, lifting bowls of wine with his energy. The protagonist catches all the bowls in the face of the backstabber. The protagonist stands up for the girl, saying that how could they get a woman in so much trouble over a simple wine? The young man says that the reason why the wine could increase spiritual energy is because it was passed from Nayland Meyer's hands, because she is a martial dancer. The others can't figure out what a martial dancer is, because that profession was lost long ago. However, a guy from the council remembers his elder talking about it. The young man goes on to say that in battle, the dancer can help those on their side improve their mental strength and even cultivation. Afterwards, the girl says that the boy surprised her. The beautiful girl asks if the young man decided to help her only out of kindness. The boy replies that of course not. Afterwards, he says that he wants her to become his apprentice, because the profession of a dancer was long lost, and only he can teach her. The cheeky guy laughs at the guy because he's just a middle-ranking teacher. However, the beauty flirting with the protagonist answers him that it is a very curious proposal, but she will think if he will take her as his wife. The young man, embarrassed, replies that he wants to take her as an apprentice because she fights well and is worthy to be her. There is nothing to think about love. The beauty tells the guy that his body thinks the opposite, and let him not be shy because she prefers innocent crazy men like him instead of other men. The protagonist moves away from the girl, noting that her cultivation will be sealed for some time, and if not solved, she will not advance in cultivation, but he will be able to help if she becomes his disciple. The Dark King tells the beauty that the teacher-student relationship requires a lot of commitment, so he asks her not to be so hot about it. The girl replies that she understands the risks. Nayland Meyer gets close to the young man, saying she's a big spender and he can't afford her. After that, she left remarking that she'd find a guy if she needed one, so don't think about running away. The young man says he'll wait for them to meet. While in the back, a backbiter yells that the girl will never be his student. The protagonist turns around and tells the guy that if he wants to rest at his funeral, he'll help him. Then someone in the crowd shouts that Zhugong's tomb has just been opened. Outside, you can see the tomb opening and people marveling at the discovery. A guy calls Luo Tian saying that there is a monster near the entrance to the tomb and they need his help. He leaves and tells the protagonist that he's lucky and if he meets him again, he'll give him hell on earth. The young man stares after the guy thinking he's the one who's going to give him, and not just hell. After which, the guy turns around and asks how Master Chen will pay him back. The master replies that here is a statement for 200 million high-ranking stones, asking the guy if it's enough. The protagonist replies that it is enough, noting that he won't bother him anymore. At this point, however, but puts some sort of stamp on the kid's forehead. He asks what he has done, to which the young man asks when they will go to the tomb, because the World Bank should also be interested in what is there. The humbled heir says their uncle will already be waiting in the tomb. Once a group of guys arrive at the entrance to the tomb, they are stopped saying that only people from the 3 major sects can enter. The roadblockers say they don't care where they're from, they won't let them through. Then the heir's uncle comes in telling the guys to leave. The man says these guys are from the World Bank, after which the boys are let through while the heir says hello to his uncle. The man asks his nephew who the guy is with them, who replies that he is a good friend of his. The young man greets him, saying he is from Tuntian Temple, Chenjian. As they walked onward from above, Gate Elder Qingjiang looked at them, thinking that this was who Master Luo Tianzhong was telling him about. The old man, jumping off, tells the guy he can't pass. Also, noting that under the agreement, the World Bank will not prevent him. The uncle asks his nephews if he can help their friend, to which they reply that he doesn't need to, also saying that the old man is very unlucky, and they feel sorry for him. The protagonist looking at the old man says that he is at the peak of the Zun stage, to which the elder replies that how dare he act so arrogant in front of him, preparing to attack. The young man knocks the weapon out of the old man's hands in an instant, saying that the man is too weak for him to even show himself. After which he draws his sword, and in an instant he attacks the elder, telling him to tell Luo Tianzhong not to try so hard because he will come for his life. The old man falls to the ground shivering, saying that he understood everything and will pass on the guy's words. The uncle of the 2 youths, noting the protagonist's strength, says it's a good thing he's their friend. After what happened, the lord of the city arrives. The young man notices his students wondering what they are doing here. The lord's group heads towards the guy. The disciples see their master and whisper joyfully about it. The old man sees the boy and greets him, while the young man thinks he could use the map the old man brought. The lord of the town notices that the boy has raised his level in a few days, and is very surprised. The boy replies that it's thanks to the tree the old man gave him, thinking that this time he is being extremely friendly with him. The rest of the people who came with the lord of the city don't understand why he's being so nice to the guy. The young man asks to see the map from the old man. Others are starting to resent the guy's request. Lord gives the card to the guy, telling him to keep his eyes open for it. A young man looks at the map and notices that there is something wrong with it, realizing that if you follow this map, everyone will just die. The old man asks the guy if he's okay. The guy can't figure out what kind of game he's playing. The young man hands over the map saying that everything is fine and that it is better for the Lord to look after it so that no one steals it. The teacher approaches his students, thinking that the old man tricked them into putting a protection talisman on both of them. However, the students, on the contrary, know about some plan of the Lord. The young man then leaves while the others discuss him and how he behaved. The protagonist approaches his group, telling the heir to ask his uncle to deal with the monster while he takes it with him. The heir doesn't understand what the guy means. The man notes that this plan is very dangerous, but the nephew says he understands what his uncle is talking about. But if there is any threat, this guy is the safest to be around. The protagonist's group approaches the entrance to the tomb and sees 2 monsters that won't let them pass, after which the man engages in battle with the monsters. The Lord, seeing the battle going on, tells the girl that he will go help the man, giving the card to her. The girl accepts the card, thinking that they will finally put their plan into action. The girl and her group are the first to head to the entrance of the tomb. The protagonist realized his student's plan, so he didn't rush into the tomb, but his companion begins to ask why they are in no hurry to enter. Screams began to come from the tomb, after which the young man grabs his companion and they head for the tomb, the temple inside the tomb. The young man's traveling companion asks why they can't see the people who came in before them since he heard shouting before they came in. The protagonist explains that they are trapped and just can't see, to which the heir asks how they could be trapped if they had the map. The guy says that the map the old man gave him was nothing. He wanted the 3 largest sects along with the council to die here. The companion asks the guy if Begu isn't afraid that his plan won't work, and they won't all end up going against him. To which the young man replies that the old man cannot be killed so easily, and why his companion is so careless. The heir and the protagonist see some sort of silhouette up ahead. The boy asks in a trembling voice who it could be, because people shouldn't be here. The young man replies that it is a corpse, he was just a peaceful wanderer, but then got trapped in the tomb and became its puppet. The puppet starts to get up. The heir begins to panic, saying that they will die. However, the young man calmly says that it's just someone's toy that hasn't fully awakened. After which, the guy throws a fire talisman that blows up the puppet. Sputnik can't believe the guy tackled him in one punch. The main character's disciples catch up with him, telling him to go away, because in front of him is a puppet of the ruler's stage. While his friends were praising their teacher, the heir doesn't realize what an idiot he was to try to insult or humiliate Jian Chen. The guy's allies start talking about how they quickly found him using a real map and about the plan to destroy the enemies. The apprentice gives the map to the guy, saying that the map shows how to get into the tomb, but it doesn't say what's inside. The map showed only forks of the road and no mention of what was in the heart of the tomb. The young man begins to reason, asking why Beige needed 2 strangers for his plan. To which the girl replies that it was the Lord's fiction. The young man finishes thinking and says that since there is nothing on the map, they will find out for themselves what is hidden here. The protagonist's group comes to the underground palace of the tomb. A young man notices the strangeness of the statues and tells the others to be careful. On one of the statues, the protagonist saw something glowing in her forehead. Then the statue fires a beam at the girl. The guy tells her to duck, but she says she can't move. The young man grabs the student dodging the beam. The guy saves the beauty, telling the others not to worry because he's there for them. Thinking it's the third eye technique that has a terrible mental influence. The protagonist says that there is a reward for saving the heir's life. The protagonist blocks another attack by the statues, saying that all the lives of his comrades belong to him, and he won't let anyone take them. The statues change their appearance, exuding a terrifying energy. The guy puts a protective barrier on his companions, because from this energy they can lose their minds. After putting on the defense, the guy rushed to fight. The shockwave from their clash with the enemy hurts the defense. The heir sees how strong the protagonist is, can't believe they're on the same stage as him. The guy uses the avatar technique. After that, he deals with the enemy with a single blow of his technique. The heir, seeing the strength of the protagonist, thinks that he has achieved such strength in a couple of months, calling him a monster. The young man tells his companions to stay here, for he will go on alone. Walking further, he sees the statue begin to awaken. The 3-headed lord tells the guy to leave the place. The protagonist puts his head down and says he didn't want to destroy the temple, he just wanted to know the truth. He asks why the temple of the 9 palaces that governed the entire Heavenly 9 was destroyed in one night. The lord replies to the lad that they have indeed fallen, having experienced, in doing so, an infinite darkness before which no one can withstand. The reanimated statue is starting to go crazy. Then it collapses. The guy is surprised that a creature comparable in power to the 30 major deities could end his life like that. Walking into the next room, the protagonist notices a fluctuation in energy. Some entity appears in front of him. Proto asks the ego who he is. He replies that it doesn't matter, asking the guy if the lost can find their way without being able to exalt themselves. The protagonist replies that being absolutely strong is the only way. The unidentified man, laughing at the guy's answer, says that they once thought so too, but they were wrong. The vanishing entity says it will reap the guy again once he finds the true path. A young man finds a strange ring that emanated energy. Various treasures begin to emerge from the ring. The guy is very excited about his find. He also finds one of the 6 unspoken techniques of the Third Eye world. The guy's joy is interrupted by the fact that he felt the girl's protective talisman working. After leaving the temple, he hears a female disciple calling for Ego to help him. The girl, resisting, tells the attackers that when her master arrives, they will all die. However, the attackers say that her master can't do anything to them because he is weak. The attacker sees the protagonist and starts threatening him. The protagonist, seeing his students being attacked, come to a rage. The protagonist snatches the weapon from the guy using spiritual power. Then he lifts the enemy into the air. He asks if the guy is a spiritual master. The guy replies that it doesn't matter because he dared to touch his students. After which he restrains the enemy with his power and chains. The lad asks his associates to help him. One of them agrees to help, but the other says he won't. The protagonist turns to the one who refused to help, saying he made the right choice. The other, however, begins to use his technique to attack the protagonist. The young man takes out his brush just like his enemy, saying that since he's an artist he can't show up at art school with such skills. The enemy is surprised that the guy is also an artist. The young man draws a white dragon, saying that ego is offended by the word "to" of the opponent. After which the protagonist's attack kills the guy. However, the young man has no intention of stopping, and pulls the shackled kid down, grabbing the ego by the throat. That one tries to save his life by saying that he made a mistake, and since he is one of the great disciples of Chinjin Gate, he will be able to compensate for the damage. However, the guy defies his pleas and destroys the warg's spiritual veins. The last of the attackers watch the whole thing from stealth, recognizes that the guy is strong. However, he attacks the guy's students, saying they are his weakness. The young man catches the needle, asking who dared to do it. The enemy praises the protagonist for his good reflexes because he caught his needle. The protagonist looks at the enemy and tells him that he is too confident to attack the students in his presence, then strikes a strong blow at the opponent, appearing in an instant in front of him. The attacker falls, but the young man notices that something is wrong. The guy realizes it was a spirit of darkness. The young man is then attacked from behind. The enemy shows up and says that the needles he wounded the hero with are aimed at spiritual power. However, the protagonist striking the guy asks why the guy thought he had a path limit. The young man is surprised that the enemy has not yet died with such fatal damage. He also suggests the guy to see which will die faster, his Dao form or his body. The antagonist decides that he may not only lose the chance to take the treasure, but also his life. After which he attacks the guy. Young manages to attack his opponent before he can land his blow. However, the enemy manages to block the attack and disappears, telling the guy that he will wait for him outside the tomb to see him die. After the guy disappears, the protagonist starts coughing up blood. The teacher falls down, but the students manage to catch him. The apprentice says they should follow the enemy to finish him off. But the guy stops them because the enemy possesses the spirit of darkness and no one can catch him. Jin Qin says that everyone needs to rest first, since this was not the last battle they would face. The guy who managed to escape tells the others at the entrance of the tomb that the white-haired guy killed Yi Shukxiao and Li Moru and took the treasure. The liar says to get all the brothers together to get revenge. The clan elders say they will definitely kill the guy. The three elders ask Chen what he thinks about it, since his nephew entered the tomb with the protagonist. The man replies that his child of the bank will not prevent the elders because the World Bank also wants to share the treasure. After their conversation, Luotian and Mayor still come in and say that they want to get involved as well. To all this still comes the Lord of the City and the head of the Beastmaster Association, saying that they are also involved. The three elders say that the thief is not out yet, and it is not yet time to divide the treasure. From the crowd they began to shout that the protagonist had come out of the tomb. The guy asks why there are so many people here. The elders demand that the young man give them the treasure if he doesn't want them to kill him. The heir says he can help preserve the treasure, to which the young man replies that he doesn't need any help with that. The protagonist tells the guy to keep the World Bank out of it, because he can't handle the consequences. After which the boy goes to his uncle, asking him not to interfere with what is happening. Three elders attack the young man demanding the treasure, to which the protagonist replies that they're too confused because they can't kill him. He's starting to use his techniques, after which it attacks the enemies. Opponents start laughing at the guy's attack, saying he can't get over the stage difference. However, the attacks come through, confusing the enemies. The protagonist re-attacks the elders, killing them. The defeated begin to beg for mercy. The crowd marvels at the guy's strength. More masters flew out from the crowd, already ready to strike, demanding the treasure. The young man destroys one of the techniques with his power, using a forbidden technique, at the same time attacking the other masters. However, they don't give up, and as soon as the guy runs out of strength, they will attack. After the attacks, the protagonist ran out of strength, which the enemies decided to take advantage of and attacked him. However, a beauty from the crowd defends the guy, saying that his student has come to help him. The enemies ask Meyer why she is helping him, since she can't handle the three of them, and her guards won't help her. Belle replies that she's not going to rely on the Lord of Darkness, winking at the protagonist. The boy says that if she's going to do it for her master, he won't be disappointed in her, no matter what the outcome. After that, the girl starts dancing, saying that today she will dance only for the master. The guy starts to feel a rush of energy because of the girl's dancing. The young man shows his strength, and says that since his student is dancing for him, he will not let her down. Opponents see how the protagonist's power has grown, asking Meyer what she has done. The protagonist attacks the masters, saying that he didn't allow his apprentice to be called by her name. One of the enemies can't take the pressure. At that moment, the other two masters discuss that they should interrupt the girl's dance and then kill the guy, after which they split up and attack the beauty and the protagonist at the same time. The young man begins to use his spiritual technique. The protagonist kills two masters at once, telling the others to surrender or they will die. The crowd, seeing the guy's strength, don't dare to challenge him anymore. Only one out of everyone challenged the guy. It was Luo Tianchong. The protagonist sees that his opponent from the Martial Arts Council is also the son of Lin Lan Weintian. So he uses his avatar, after which he attacks his enemy, saying since he didn't want to surrender, he will teach him a lesson. Zaznaika falls to the ground while the others whisper. A young man towering over the others tells them to surrender. The others, seeing the protagonist's strength and ruthlessness, give up. The Shadow Master calls out to the protagonist, saying that the ego mistress is exhausted. A couple guys come out of the crowd, see that the protagonist has run out of strength, after which they attack the exhausted guy. However, the attackers feel an unknown force pinning them to the ground. Behind the enemy, Academy Principal Bai Min appears. The one gets in front of the protagonist, asking the others how they dared to raise a hand against a student of his academy. The Lord and the head of the Beastmen are happy that this man came and protected the lad. Other people are starting to say that Beiming Academy doesn't have such talented students. The protagonist reincarnates into his true form, saying that he is Jian Chen. The director thinks it's a good thing he saved the guy. However, he had to reveal himself. A battered Luo says that Quan Ren was able to protect the protagonist today, but will he be able to do so tomorrow? Belle enters the dialogue, saying that since the protagonist is her master, he will now be under the protection of the Nalan family. The guy asks the girl why she is protecting this young man, since she is supposed to be with him. Meyer mockingly replies to the guy to acknowledge that there's nothing he can do to her. The girl takes her master's hand, saying that since Master Quan was with her, the others won't do anything. Already in the pavilion, the beauty asks the guy how his wounds are. He replies that everything is fine. His wounds don't hurt. The student then asks the teacher when the opening ceremony will be in her honor. The girl keeps saying that she only danced for her master, so she wants a reward from him. She tells me that nothing will pay for her dance except spirit stones. The apprentice, seducing, asks the master if he agrees to do the welcoming ceremony. The young man, blushing, agrees. The protagonist gives the girl a ring, saying that gives her 50 million spirit stones. A welcoming ceremony and covering all living expenses. After the guy's words, another female student enters the room. The apprentice pushes the girl away, saying she too wants the master to give her something. The girls are starting to fight. The students push the guy down. Then they lie on top of him, asking who he'll choose. The young man tries to push the girls away. He tries to justify himself by saying it was an accident. The protagonist kicks the girls out of his room. The head of the Zvero boys comes to the guy, saying that he came to check on him because he is worried about his health. The young man says that the old man obviously didn't come for that, as he is now being hunted by the three great sects and Wu Ge because of what happened in the tomb. Also asking why they came up with a plan to destroy the great sects. The head replies that there are many reasons, because Wu Ge has long since earned the hatred of the people. After the conversation, the guy walks the old man out. He is called by the headmaster and asked when he will visit Shifeng Temple, because the head has already summoned all the officials to Beiminyuan. The young man runs away, saying that as soon as he is done with his business, he will definitely visit the temple. In the Tianyuan forest, resting the phoenix that the guy left behind, the protagonist suddenly appears in front of the bird. At this point, he disperses the beasts. He brags to the guy that all the animals in the forest are now his subordinates. The young man praises the phoenix, telling it to come with him. Gyogin Sekiti Estate. A bird asks the protagonist if he should kill everyone. The bird asks the protagonist if he should kill everyone. The monsters from the forest begin to attack the sect. The people inside are panicking, screaming that they're being attacked by monsters. The Master of Formations places a dome over the entire area. A wave of monsters collide with the dome, unsuccessfully trying to break through. The young man sees the dome and uses the breakthrough technique, after which the dome collapses. The protagonist comes to the enemies, saying that everyone can stay unharmed. The enemies ask what he wants. The protagonist replies that he only wants one thing: the dissolution of the Qingjian sect. The head replies to him that this is impossible because the sect has already been standing for generations. Moreover, Wu Ge has already set the rules. The young man replies that Wu Ge means nothing to him, using the pressure of his power on the old man. The old man falls to his knees, asking why he was doing all this. After all, the Qingjian sect was no threat to him. The boy remembers how the old man behaved in the tomb, and gives him an ultimatum that if he doesn't want to dissolve the sect, he will trade the lives of his disciples for the stone tablet of the Qingjian sect. The old man disbanded the cult because he saw no way out. The protagonist jumps to the phoenix, asking why it is up, for they still have two great sects to visit. The bird asks his master why he is letting them go. The young man replies that he had no intention of killing the innocent, but if they won't take a chance, that's their choice. The disciples ask the old man if he would really dissolve the sect so easily. The elder replies that he is not going to dissolve the sect like this, and will bring Jianchen's head to wash away this shame. After which he says he's going to Wu Pavilion. The young man arrived at the Long sect. The head of the sect comes out to the protagonist, saying that he has heard that all the great sects have dissolved and he will dissolve his own tomorrow. The guy replies that he's not going to stop them from disbanding. He's here for a guy named Mu Xinyun. The man replies that the guy's already gone, and it was the Blazing Heaven Academy that he went to. Phoenix asks the guy if this is really the end, to which he replies, no. At that moment, the protagonist's apprentice appears and tells him through a communication technique that all the sects have united and they are waiting for him in the northern city. The protagonist says he knew this would happen. A young man reaches the city with his army of monsters, where everyone is united against him. The assembled elders say they cannot lose this war. The commander-in-chief takes the flag in his hands, shouting that someone like Jianchen should be executed because his hands are covered in blood. The protagonist addresses the unification, saying that he gave them all a chance and they didn't take it, which means they will die. The chief elder activates the defense barrier, after which he tells them that this defense formation will be able to protect them from the monsters. However, the guy will collapse it, at which point they will be able to attack him. However, the protagonist uses the spirit skill Divine Hand, which destroys the formation in seconds. Enemies see their defenses fall. The boss orders everyone to attack the protagonist at once, because he must get a kick out of destroying the formation. Everyone starts attacking each other, leaving the battlefield full of corpses. The protagonist is surrounded by enemy masterminds. The young man provokes his opponents to attack. The enemies start attacking the guy using their strongest techniques. The disciples of the Union rejoice that their maters have come to battle the protagonist. Phoenix asks his master if he should deal with these insolent men. He replies that he will deal with them himself, because he has not yet fully recovered. The protagonist uses the power of chakra. Bird is greatly surprised that he has cultivated a power that can destroy everything in its path. One of the old men is the first to rush out to attack the guy. The young man, with one punch, defeats the elder. The other elders decide to attack together, but the protagonist uses his avatar and grabs one of them with a vine. Another is attacked by a predatory flower. The old man screams, calling for the commander-in-chief to help him. The head of the Union saves the old man from the flower by cutting the stem. Proto takes some serious damage from the avatar's damage. The enemy turns to the guy, saying that he and his town and troops will kill him today. The young man asks why the man has been hiding for so long, and now he has decided to show up. The man tells the protagonist that he waited until he used up all his energy to finish him off. The Union troops are jubilant at the joining of the main to the battle. The protagonist combines his spirit Tao with his chakra, revealing his second avatar. After which he asks the enemy what he can do, in front of his phoenix. The disciples see their master from far away, beginning to praise him. The elder cannot believe what he has seen, and asks the protagonist how he was able to awaken 2 Tao spirits. The young man attacks the old man with his phoenix, telling him to surrender. The one answers him that he is a Lord Stage cultivator who is about to know the supremacy stage and is not going to give up so easily. Whereupon the commander-in-chief begins to attack back. The two forces begin to fight for supremacy. The man starts mocking the guy's phoenix, saying the guy can't overpower his Suzaku phoenix. The guy tells the elder to take a better look. The protagonist's avatar then begins to absorb the enemy spirit. The protagonist's avatar attacks the enemy after being absorbed. The guy steps on his opponent's throat, saying he's due a reward and he'll kill him quickly. After which he shouts that he is Jianchen on behalf of Beigou, declaring that today is the end of the Wu sect. The beaten enemy, yelling at the guy, asks if he really wants to go against Wu Gi, because he won't let him get away with it. The protagonist replies that he doesn't care about him or his sect. The girl also remarks that although she is a member of Wu Ge, she has made her choice. After which the protagonist kills the chief elder. Mayor tells the teacher that she will definitely take care of him. The young man at this moment thinks that his student has a lot of secrets. After which the protagonist, leaving, tells the girl that they will discuss it later. The protagonist comes to the battlefield and tells the enemy army that their commander is dead, and if they surrender, they will not die. Opponents drop their weapons, saying they are surrendering. The young man turns to the girl, asking her who she really is. The other apprentice sees the master looking seriously at the other Meyer. She comes closer, wondering what she might have done wrong. The girl replies to the guy that there's no point in hiding anything now. She asks him if he has heard of the Xinghai constellation, the Qianming family. The boy recalls that he had heard of this family 3,000 years ago. The girl asks her if she's talking about the family, she says, which may be comparable to the forces of Wu's sect. Whereupon she replies that she is the eldest daughter of the Star family. When the student asks why she has a different surname, all of her family members hold unimaginably high positions, and their main residence, Lin Lan Wentian, is near the Sea of Starry Blue. The young man tells the girl that she knew there that he would fight Wu Gi, and from now on his attitude towards her will know no mercy. To which the girl replies that isn't that fair since she was hoping that the protagonist could defeat Wu Ge. The protagonist thinks it smells of family secrets. However, she has helped him many times and he doesn't think she has bad intentions. Then he leaves and says he hopes everything she said is true, adding that if she betrays him, he'll kill her himself. The girl gets down on her knee saying she will never betray the master's trust. 3 days later, in the protagonist's room, Meyer looks at the master and thinks it's not a sin to be called his apprentice. The young man thinks that in the past few days, his cultivation has grown a lot, and the next stage is within reach. The pretty girl climbs on top of the guy, asking him if his cultivation has dried up, to which he replies that she's fine. It's just that if someone would dance for him to know the next stage, then maybe his anger would be extinguished. The girl seducing the guy begins to ask what he wants to see dance because she knows a lot of ancient dances, as well as striptease. Then she says she already knows what kind of dance she wants to see the main character get a little naked, also thinking that this time she will be able to woo him. Belle stumbles at the end of the dance, but the protagonist catches her.
Afterward, she asks if the master liked her dance.
They're interrupted by the principal breaking into the room. He and the other elders see the young man embrace the student. That's when they realize they've come at the wrong time, then slam the door shut, apologizing for interrupting the moment. The main character with a girl on his shoulders flies out of the room screaming for them to come back. A couple moments later, everyone is standing in front of the guy. The young man asks those who have come why they have come. Those tell that Luo Tianzhong is simply furious and demands that he appear in Beigu City. The man says that the boy should go to Seifang Jinhe. Only there he will be safe. After all, he can't protect him because he's too weak. The young man wondered if Wentian was so strong that even these three couldn't handle him. The protagonist asks what is the power of this whippersnapper. The director replies that his cultivation base is very similar to the demonic cult leader Mo Yuan. The protagonist asks why they are helping him. And they reply that time will come and he will understand the reason. But for now, it is better for him to know only that they are on his side. The young man thinks that there is no point in lying to the old men with their power, and that he will be safe at the Seifang Temple because Wu Ge's powers do not apply there. Proto says goodbye to the allies, saying he hopes they will meet again. The allies also say goodbye to the guy with the hope that they will meet again. The protagonist tells his female students to call Jian Li, and they leave. He also contacts the Phoenix, saying he will follow him to the temple. Guy thinks he's gonna deal with his new enemy. 3 for afterward. The protagonist and his students arrive at the gates of the city. The students show that they are very tired from the road. The young man tells them that as soon as they get to the city, they can have a good rest. The protagonist's group reaches the city and rests in a tavern. The girl asks the teacher that they went to the Zifeng Temple through Qinchuan. Proto recalls that Qinchuan is the hometown of the owner of the body and the fat man. Meyer asks the master if he is really from the Chuanjian family. After all, the strength of this family is comparable to Baidi City, so how did the guy join the Guangzun sect? Proto replies that he doesn't care about his family. Then the fat man starts shouting that he shouldn't talk like that because he is the young master of the Qian family. He says the guy's father had no choice but to send him to a cult. Proto recalls that the father of this body loved him very much. I'm stopping here. Guys, if you like this video and want part 2, hit 2,000 likes under this video. Also subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and leave a comment. Until the next video.